It all starts with a shadowy figure enveloped in a red aura of pure rage and power. Then, we see the face of an angry man, using his strength to break the chains that bound him. At that moment, he unleashes an explosion of red energy that throws everyone into the air with its overwhelming power. A few guards from some faction observe the scene with looks of contempt and arrogance, ready to fight. The man is now floating in the air, his hands on fire, looking defiantly at the warriors who are preparing to face him. Suddenly, a masked young man appears and asks him what he thinks he is doing, calling him a fraud. The warrior is stunned by the accusation and wonders what the hell this guy is talking about. Furious, he lunges forward screaming that a spoiled bookworm like him wouldn't know anything. The move is incredibly fast and powerful, clearly intended to finish off the young man in one fell swoop. But the guards act first, intercepting the man's attack and hitting him from all sides at once. The coordinated assault is too much for him, and he collapses on the ground, defeated by his opponents. One of the young warriors observes the scene with a cold and distant gaze, as if nothing had happened. The smell of blood fills the air after the violent confrontation that has just occurred. The scene changes to a lonely man standing in the rain in front of a large temple. The guy looks relieved and comments that the smell is finally starting to fade. It is explained that those born with the celestial martial body have the 5 senses sharpened to an extreme degree. This is a talent that defies the logic of ordinary men, being born only once every 100 years. His eyesight is so amazing that, if you want, you can focus on tiny things from a great distance. For example, he can observe every detail of a single raindrop falling from the sky, and with his keen ear, he hears 2 men complaining about a scholar who was wandering around the Alliance. One of them complains that this scholar is causing trouble all over instead of letting them eat in peace. The other wonders if the guy can hear. But his friend doubts it because of the heavy rain. But the narrator confirms that, yes, he can hear from great distances, even with all the noise of the rain. And it is revealed that, of all his abilities, the most terrifying is his acute perception. Then remember to have passed the service exams. Civil service at 19, thinking he was smarter than most. But it was only after joining the Miram Alliance Inspection Bureau that he discovered that he had the celestial martial body. With this gift, he could easily interpret and master secret manuals, becoming intoxicated with power and feeling fearless. However, the martial arts world was already filled with powerful masters everywhere. He quickly realized that he would be a target, and, since he preferred books to fights, he decided to hide his true abilities. Now, he walks in the rain, wondering what he will become in the future, or what path he will follow, but he knows that the person he is today still does not have that answer. In this moment of uncertainty, he remembers his mother and misses her deeply, especially on this day. The scene changes, and now we see the young scholar standing inside an imposing hall, with his arms crossed. He asks the patriarch of the Nam Gong clan why he was summoned, and the man confirms his identity as the Chin scholar. Nam Gong Hak, the clan leader, emerges from the shadows, and comments on the young man's serene attitude. It is revealed that Nam Gong Hak is a legendary figure, and the world has bestowed a very important title on him. He is known as one of the 3 heavenly swords, and young Chien confirms that he already knew about it. The patriarch unleashes an overwhelming blue aura, showing exactly why he is so famous and powerful. Chien is intimidated, because it seems that the man can see through him, and wonders what he wants. The patriarch approaches, and says that he is going to be direct with the young scholar. Chien panics, wondering if the patriarch has discovered his secret about the celestial martial body. The clan leader then begins to speak slowly, increasing the tension in the air. At this moment, the young scholar becomes anxious, waiting to hear what the powerful man has to say, but to his surprise, the patriarch desperately begs him to turn his youngest son into a decent human being. The young man is completely stunned by the unexpected request of the Grandmaster, who bows in a sign of respect. Confused by the situation, Chien doesn't understand anything as the clan leader reveals that he has already had him investigated. Hak explains that he heard about the intelligence and insight of the young man from the chief inspector. He also heard that the scholar managed to completely rehabilitate a famous troublemaker in the Alliance. Chien tries to downplay the importance of the story with Pan Solan, saying that it was all just a misunderstanding. The patriarch changes the subject, revealing that he knows that Qian gave up a position at the palace to take care of his mother. The young man bows silently, confirming that the man before him knows about his personal life. With that, Nam Ganghak makes her an offer she can't refuse, promising to cure her mother's illness if she helps him. Qian remains silent for a moment, his head bowed, pondering the incredible proposal. He stays silent for a few seconds, thinking about the offer that could change his life forever. However, the young man expresses his doubt, saying that his mother's illness is not something common. The clan leader replies that he already knows the details, and that the clan's divine doctor will take care of her. The scholar is shocked to hear about the legendary figure, and wonders if he is really here. A confident smile appears on the patriarch's face, confirming the young man's hopes. Nam Ganghak then adds another condition, asking him to educate his youngest son as well. In return, he promises to send Chen wherever he wants, be it the Anlam Academy or the Imperial Palace. Chen is stunned by the offer, but realizes that he could have a successful career and get the best treatment for his mother. Then he smiles determinedly and tells himself that no matter how terrible the patriarch's son is, he will turn him into a human being. Just then, Qian hears someone shouting insults from a nearby building and walks towards the commotion. Inside, a young maid screams in fear after being soaked with a bowl of cold water. The culprit is a young man with red hair who angrily complains that she can't do anything right. She keeps screaming that she asked for a wet towel, not a bowl of water, while the maid apologizes. The young man says that he is already nervous about a duel, and now he has to deal with garbage like her, leaving the girl terrified. But just as he was about to do something, Chiyun enters the room, surprising both the young master and the maid. The scholar calmly enters the room, fan in hand, observing the situation. His gaze is serious and analytical as he evaluates the patriarch's son for the first time. The young man, whose name is Nangan Mubuk, arrogantly asks who is this guy standing there. He quickly deduces from his appearance that this must be his new writing tutor, and Qin calmly returns his gaze. The scholar confirms that the patriarch assigned him as his tutor and slowly approaches. Mubuk gets upset and wonders why his father keeps doing these things and doesn't. With a mocking smile, he complains that the patriarch keeps sending him useless scholars. Chun thinks that the boy's speech is rough and superficial, but he remembers what the patriarch told him. Remember the words of the clan leader about the problems with his youngest son. The patriarch had said that the boy was uneducated and had many character defects. Suddenly, the bowl that the young master was holding is thrown to the ground, shattering. The maid shudders with fear as Muvak turns to Qian with an angry look and curses him. Qian realizes that the boy is not hiding his emotions and gets angry easily, while Mubak asks him if he has touched a sensitive spot. The maid, observing the discussion, remains silent, completely terrified by the tension between the two. With a sly smile, Mubak says that the scholar is brave, and that he will give him credit for his spirit. Then he states with a serious look that no one has dared to speak to him, Namgun Mubak. That way, the young master proposes that if Qian doesn't run away by the end of the day, he will recognize him as his teacher. And the scholar accepts. However, the tutor suggests that they leave some proof of the promise, as the words are easily forgotten. Mubak is surprised by the idea of a contract, and sarcastically remarks that the scholar is very meticulous. Then he agrees to write the contract, saying that he will even make 10 if necessary, and goes to get the materials. The young man thinks that the new tutor is naive, and does not understand what this means, but he finds it interesting. Qian, in turn, decides to provoke him a little more to test him, and adds a bet to the contract. Holding the brush, Mubak calls the scholar a case, but accepts the idea of a bet with a smile. The tutor smiles back as he realizes that the young master loves a good competition and a real challenge. Mubak reveals his bet by saying that he doesn't need money, but that if he wins, Qian will be his slave for a year. Qian finds the condition a little childish, but he accepts the challenge without hesitation, as it seems fun. After signing the contract, Mubak praises Qian's calligraphy, acknowledging that he is a true scholar. He then tells the new teacher to follow him, as he is going to personally teach him a valuable lesson. With a maniacal smile, the young man says that he will teach her about the cruelty of the world, leaving the maid worried. With that, He shoots out of the room at full speed to start his first lesson. Chen watches the scene and thinks that the guy is like a child. He gets angry easily, but genuinely enjoys everything. The scene changes to a street that Newback looks like having left, and someone orders a bowl of noodles. With a mischievous smile, Newback wonders how he is going to correct the rude behavior of that idiot, all while Chen watches him. The young master runs down the street looking for a victim for his first lesson about the world. His expression is wild and full of respect. Gasijo, as he prepares to show his true face. Suddenly, he approaches a burly man who was standing on his back, and looks at him with a strange smile. Without warning, Newback lands a powerful punch on the man's back, taking him completely by surprise. The impact is strong, and the warrior flies forward, completely stunned. The man turns around angrily, shouting to find out who is there and what just happened, but is confused to see the young master standing behind him, with a mocking smile on his face. The warrior does not understand what happened, and asks the reason for the sudden attack. Buck then points to Chen, and says that he must have a reason, so he better ask the scholar. The tutor is speechless at the unexpected situation, as he did not expect to be dragged into this in such a way. The young man finds it hilarious to see the scholar so nervous, and thinks that he is about to give it a reality check. Right after, the young master flees the scene, leaving his tutor to take care of the furious warrior. The man turns to Qian and asks if he is the boy's assistant, giving him the opportunity to explain himself. The warrior is furious and wonders why the hell is that one Chico hit him like that. With an analytical eye, Qian begins to assess the situation, and the man in front of him. He realizes that the warrior has not drawn his sword even after the insult, and does not belong to any known faction. Qian then bows down and apologizes, although it wasn't his fault that all this happened. However, the scholar mentions a detail he saw on the warrior's sword, surprising the man. With a confident smile, Qian deduces that the man must be a warrior of the Sun sect. The warrior is shocked and stutters, asking how the scholar knows about his sect. Qian smiles and reveals that he works for the Miram Alliance Inspection Bureau. With that, he reminds the man that the leader of his sect caused great harm to an alliance elder and had to be rescued. The warrior confirms the story, but gets nervous realizing that it was classified information. The scholar explains that he personally handled that case, so he knows everything. Suddenly, the man realizes the truth and asks in terror if he is the infamous mad scholar Chen. With an amused smile, the tutor asks if his nickname has already spread so much over the territory. Newback watches from a distance, confused to see the warrior apologizing and bowing to Chen. She wonders why that man is suddenly acting so submissively. Qian waves to Newback and starts walking with the warrior, who now treats him with the utmost respect. The young master is enraged at not understanding how the situation took such a drastic turn. The scholar then explains that the boy stabbed him in the back with this joke, and says that it must be hard to serve such a master. Chen jokes that it's like walking a mad dog, and the warrior thinks the young master messed with the wrong person. The man says he suddenly feels sorry for that brat for provoking Chen. From a distance, Newback is upset to see the two whispering, and is dying to know what they are talking about. With a sinister smile, the scholar realizes that things are about to get very interesting. The warrior bows to Qian again, and says goodbye, while the young master watches everything from afar. Newback is clearly irritated and frustrated by the turn of events. Qian approaches him, fan in hand, and with a mysterious smile on his face. The young master confronts him, and asks him what the hell he said to that warrior, who then turns around and starts walking away, leaving the young master behind with a thoughtful look. With a mocking smile, the scholar turns and says it wasn't a big deal, he just offered an apology. The young man is furious at Chen's calmness, and mocks his cold and superior attitude. With that, he decides that he needs to crush that arrogance and nip it in the bud, because he really doesn't like this tutor. The young man gets even more irritated when he notices that Qian has a noble air, something that he lacks, especially in his face. So Newback starts thinking of a new plan to teach his new teacher a lesson at that time. Same time. Just then, he sees a big fat man quietly eating noodles at a nearby stall. With an evil smile, he decides that he needs to make it very clear who he is. Right in front of everyone, the young master clenches his fists, preparing to cause another scene on the street. With eyes shining with rage, she runs towards the man, shouting at him to get out of the way. The noodle bowl flies off as the young man attacks the man without warning. In a quick move, Mubik kicks the man in the face, introducing himself as a member of the Nangang clan. The people around are shocked by the sudden violence as the food bowl falls. Che Union watches the scene and wonders why that brat is doing this. The food bowl crashes to the ground with a loud bang, scattering everything. The scholar looks at the noodles on the floor, not understanding the purpose of that violent act. The street goes silent for a moment, with everyone looking at the mess the young master made. Mubak turns to Chen with a defiant look and a victorious smile on his face. But suddenly, a group of men approaches, with not very friendly expressions directed towards him. One of them looks at the scholar with contempt and calls him academic garbage with a sly smile. With a confident smile, Mubik says he's going to show them the price of challenging him directly. Then he points to Chen, throwing all the responsibility for the situation on him. In front of all the angry men, he says that from this moment on, the scholar will explain everything. The young master smiles with satisfaction and tells everyone to pay attention to what the tutor has to say. Qian remains silent, surrounded by the men who are waiting for an explanation of what happened. Mubik then mocks him, saying that since he is a penniless scribe, he doubts he will be able to pay the damages. The young man approaches Qian and stares at him with a defiant smile. She challenges him to use his sharp tongue once again to solve this complicated situation. With a smug smile, he adds that whoever tries to solve the problem, he created himself. The scholar accepts the challenge, saying that if that is what the young master wishes, he must obey. Without hesitation, Qian steps forward, preparing to handle the situation in his own way. He thinks Namgun Mubik is being irrational again, but he expected it already. The men around are whispering, for they know that no one dares to challenge the stubbornness of the young master. Qin finds himself alone, surrounded by hostile stares, and he knows that all this irrationality is directed at him. But instead of fear, the scholar's eyes open with a cold and calculating determination. With a powerful scream, he attracts attention. Of all the merchants on that street, an old woman working at her stall turns around, startled by the scholar's sudden scream. Qian then announces that, from this moment on, all the protection fees of the street make a broad gesture, indicating the entire commercial area around them with authority, and to Mubak's amazement, the guardian declares that everything will be managed by the Nangang clan itself. Mubak is stunned by the scholar's audacity and cannot believe what he has just heard. With a wry smile, Qian turns to the merchants and asks them if it's not true that the clan will take care of them. The young master gets angry and shouts that he would never manage a filthy market street like this. He grinds his teeth in rage, saying that to top it off, using the Nangang clan name like that is an outrage. Suddenly, the goons of the Dazuki gang appear and tell the scholar to stop fooling around. The leader of the gang comes up and says that this street is managed by them and that he is not going to give it up. But Qian only smiles disdainfully at the threat of the thugs, showing no fear. With a mocking tone, he says that he was wondering who was doing such a botched job here, and finds out that it was them. Qian turns to Mubak and challenges him, asking if he is intimidated by the gang. The young master stutters, but he says of course not, and that he can do a much better job than they can. The scholar slaps him on the back of the head and yells to the band if they've heard that. Then he declares that the protection rate will now be 1 copper coin per month. The merchants are surprised by such a low price and celebrate the generosity of the Namgang clan. Mubak is confused as the traders celebrate, believing that he is helping them. Suddenly, one of the merchants turns to the young master with eyes full of gratitude. He thanks Mubak, bowing in a sign of respect, leaving the young man even more bewildered. The young master does not understand why they are thanking him for something he did not even want to do. The merchants begin to praise him, calling him a real hero and the savior of the people. A man shouts that Namgang Mubak is the only one who cares about them and their well-being. The crowd starts chanting his name, and the young master smiles, satisfied with the feeling of being adored. Mubak gets carried away hearing his name chanted by the crowd, while Chen watches him. The scholar then reveals that he has come to a conclusion after analyzing several troublemakers in the Murin alliance. He explains that most of them suffer from a mental illness caused by lack of attention, and that the cure is love. That, the young master revels in the adoration of people, posing for his new fans. Chien, on the other hand, seems tired and annoyed with his students' childishness. Meanwhile, two women watch the scene from a nearby tea house. Sipping their drinks calmly, they watch the young master show off to the crowd with Chien by his side. One of them asks about the scholar and the other says that he seems to be a new recruit for the Nam Gong clan. She is amazed that a young man the same age as the brat can handle it so well. The other woman dismissively replies that he is just a scholar and is not worthy of the little princess's attention. But the princess argues that if she can handle the Nam Gong clan's headache, she has already reached a certain level of mastery. With that, she tells her maid to investigate the scholar, as he might be useful for her mission. Then the princess gets up and suddenly changes the subject with a serious air. She approaches the window with her maid, looking at the bustling street below. The young woman asks where her partner has put the precious object they own. The maid replies that the object is kept in the mountain fortress, the safest place at the moment. The scene changes to a pile of silver coins, with one of them falling onto the pile. Mubaka throws a bag of coins on the table and demands that Chien break the contract immediately. The scholar complains that a banknote would have been simpler and wonders why he received 100 heavy coins. The young teacher gets upset and shouts that he didn't do it for his convenience and that he can't stand to see this anymore. Chien smiles and says that since he insists, she will have to watch him count everything in case any coins are missing. The scholar then slowly starts counting the coins one by one to irritate the young master. Mubak becomes extremely irritated by the slow pace and threatens to finish him off right there and then. Furious, he leaves the room shouting insults and vowing to take revenge on the insidious scholar. Chien picks up some coins and comments on how heavy they are, enjoying the peaceful moment. The maid who was watching everything comes over and praises the scholar for his intelligence and cunning. She comments that this is the first time she has seen the young teacher give up his own money. So, the maid whispers, asking if the young master is not a complete idiot out of control. Chien looks at her with a soft, amused smile, neither agreeing nor disagreeing with her statement. The young woman quickly apologizes, saying that she must be talking nonsense because of the fever. The scholar says that nothing is wrong and offers to give her acupuncture. Since she knows a little bit about medicine, the maid is surprised and asks if she really knows about medicine on top of everything else. With a sad look, she reveals that she has a mother at home who has been bedridden for a long time. Chien then tells him to round up everyone who needs treatment as he will take care of them. The young woman bows in gratitude, deeply touched by the scholar's generosity. With a determined look, Chien says that now is the time to start the brat's rehabilitation in earnest. The scene changes to the scholar in a library, surrounded by books and paintings. It is revealed that while studying medicine to cure his mother, he discovered two important facts. He holds a book tightly, while remembering his discoveries that changed everything. The first discovery was about the constitution of his mother, who possessed something very special. Her mother possessed the supreme body of the purple star, a blessing from the heavens that made her unique. His illness was the result of this condition, so no medicine or acupuncture affected him. Fortunately, she discovered that a rare herb called the spiritual dawn flower could cure her. The second fact he discovered was about his own unique and special constitution. Born from a mother with the purple star supreme body, he inherited the celestial martial body. After turning 20, his senses developed rapidly. In a surprising way, his body underwent a metamorphosis, becoming perfect for martial arts and knowledge absorption. However, every special constitution has a flaw, and he carried the fate of the star of the broken army. Unless he absorbed the energy of 6 stars of the Big Dipper, the star of madness would explode. Then, he would be consumed by his desires, and would meet a premature and tragic end. Chien closes the book with a worried expression, as his time is quickly running out. He realizes that both his life and his mother's life depend on his next actions and decisions. To avoid his fate, he needs to find 6 people who possess the energy of the stars. Only then will he be able to prevent his transformation and save his mother from her terminal illness. Suddenly, the scene changes to a rooftop where a violent fight is taking place. Man is thrown hard and hits the ground, his face bloodied and bruised. He lies on the ground among the rubble, completely defeated and helpless. The injured man warns someone that the place is dangerous and that he should flee quickly, but the person he warns simply approaches slowly, without showing fear of the situation. The man then yells at her to wait, but the mysterious figure continues to approach. It is revealed that the figure is Chien, who says that he is easy to find. Just look for the noisiest place. He then calls the young man a brat who can't control the madness star's energy. The young man gets angry at the insult, while carelessly drinking something from a bottle. He crushes the bottle and contemptuously asks if the scholar has any idea what he is talking about. With a look of hatred, he reveals himself to be Pan Solan, the son of the elder of the Mirren Alliance. Chien calmly opens his fan, undeterred by the identity of the troubled young man. With a smile, he introduces himself as a member of the Mirren Alliance Inspection Bureau. The scene flashes back to the present, with the maid asking Chien what he was thinking about. The scholar is startled, and says that he was just remembering some things from the past. They are in the house of Techong Som on the north road of the Nanggong clan, a quiet and elegant place. Inside, Chien is performing acupuncture on several people who need medical treatment. She pulls a thin needle out of its case, preparing for another treatment session. With concentration and skill, she applies the needle to the patient, while the maid watches. The scholar demonstrates his medical knowledge by applying the needles in his own hand as a demonstration. Meanwhile, the princess's maid and the mistress of T. Guiyong's house were watching Chien's work. Guiyong comments that last time he handled the brat as if he were a child. And now he is performing acupuncture in a way that surpasses most doctors, showing his skill. She concludes that he is, in fact, someone worthy of the young lady's attention, and that she was right to investigate him. Chien continues his work with concentration and determination, while writing a prescription for a patient. An elderly couple calls him a scholar, thanking him for his care. An elderly woman offers Chien some eggs as a thank you, saying that she never imagined receiving such treatment. The scholar looks at the eggs, a simple but sincere gesture of gratitude from the people who helped. With a gentle smile, he thanks her and says that the eggs look fresh and that he will enjoy them. She holds the small bag carefully, appreciating the humble but meaningful gift. Chien then offers them money to buy the necessary medicines for their treatment. The old woman is shocked and refuses to accept, saying that she cannot accept money as well. But the scholar insists, saying that everyone is a family and should help each other since they serve the same teacher. The patients thank him excitedly, commenting that the scholar is a truly good person. With a warm smile, Chien says goodbye, telling them that it's getting late and they should go home. The patients leave happy, one of them celebrating that he can now move his shoulder thanks to him. Chien then turns to Guiyong, the owner of Taos, who is watching him with a smile. He thanks her for letting him use the place so late at night, saying it was a great help. Guiyong invites him to come back whenever he wants, and says that next time, he will prepare a private room for them. The scholar thanks her again, and thinks that the owner of the tea house is younger and more beautiful than he imagined. Suddenly, he imagines himself in an intimate moment with her, which leaves him visibly shocked. With a burning face, he is startled by his own inappropriate and sudden thoughts. Breaking out in a cold sweat, he wonders what the hell he was thinking, and berates himself for his wild imagination. He realizes that he needs to quickly find the people with the Big Dipper energy before it's too late. The scene changes to night, with Chien standing in front of a lighted building. Meanwhile, the princess asks her maid how the research on the scholar went. The maid reveals that Chien was born in Guan, and his family was influential, but he fell out of favor. She goes on to say that she has a good character, but that she made many enemies by exposing corruption in the alliance. The princess is shocked to learn that she even knocked down an elder of the Mirren Alliance. The maid explains that he was so relentless that he earned the nickname of the Ghostly Scholar. The princess deduces that the alliance sent him to the Namgong clan to get rid of him. The maid adds that there are rumors that she knows martial arts and is at the level of rising stars. In addition, there is something about her mother that the princess orders the maid to reveal without hesitation. The young woman explains that, after investigating the condition of Chien's mother, she discovered that she suffers from a cut pulse. With this, The princess wonders if he is the one with the severed sun pulse she has been looking for. The maid seems nervous about her mistress's conclusion, but says nothing to contradict her. The princess reveals that she has been looking for this person for 5 years, and that she has only 1 year left to live. Determined, she decides that she must find the sun's pulse cut off, and will personally examine Qian's mother. She then orders her maid, who is Guiyang, to continue to keep an eye on the scholar. Meanwhile, Qiang walks around thoughtfully, wondering where he could find the people with the Big Dipper's energy. Reflect that those born with this energy are destined to reveal themselves in some way. He believes that they could already be famous or leaders of some important faction. The scholar continues his lonely walk, lost in his thoughts about his destination. Suddenly, Mubik appears and calls him master, with an excited smile on his face. Qian remains silent with a tired expression as he sees his student approaching. The young teacher hands him a book, and the scholar asks what it is. He explains that the book has been passed down in his family for generations, but no one has been able to interpret it. The young master says that he is going to try to interpret the book, and Qian asks if it is a martial arts manual. Buck replies that he doesn't know and asks his writing teacher for help, since that's what he's here for. The scholar is suspicious, wondering what that brat is up to by asking him for a favor. After giving it some thought, Qian accepts the challenge, saying that he was bored anyway. The young man celebrates and runs away excited, saying that he is counting on him to decipher the book. Qian is frustrated to realize that the young master is up to one of his tricks again. From a distance, Mubik laughs and thinks that the stupid scholar thinks that it is just an ordinary manual. He reveals that if Qian tries to interpret the book like the others, he will fall into Kai's deviation. Qian starts reading the book, and realizes the trap of the crazy brat who has tricked him. With an angry look, he wonders if the young master just handed him a secret manual of the Nangang clan. Meanwhile, Mubik is relaxing on the grass, feeling much better. After his little revenge, he challenges the silly scholar to try to decipher the book. Knowing that a bad time awaits him, the young teacher thinks with a sly smile that the manual is not just any text, but a trap. He reveals that this martial art has led to the ruin of countless geniuses of the clan. Nangang. When trying to interpret the chants, the meridians are torn one by one, leading to the deviation of Qi. Mubai continues to relax as people pass by, unaware of his evil plan. Meanwhile, Qian is sitting outside reading the book with attention and concentration. The book contains complex descriptions of the heavenly Tao and the principles of Jin and Yang. The scholar is fascinated by the profound principles of the supreme martial art contained in the book. Then he decides that, instead of just reading, he will try to accept the verses with his body. The maid approaches and calls to him, breaking his deep concentration. She thanks him, and says that her mother's condition has improved a lot after taking the medicine he prescribed. Qian smiles and says he's glad to hear that his mom is feeling better. The maid adds that the others are also amazed by her skills and offers to help. The scholar accepts his offer, saying that he could really use some of his help. With the book in his hand, he asks if by chance they have a wooden sword in the accommodation. The young woman is confused by the strange and unexpected request of the scholar. Suddenly, Mubak appears and angrily asks the maid what she is doing. He yells at her for giving her wooden sword to the scholar, and the maid apologizes, scared. The young master draws his royal sword and points it at the maid, who is terrified. He comments on how sharp the blade is as the maid screams for her life. The young man holds the sword firmly, preparing to attack the defenseless girl with a cruel smile. Abruptly and unexpectedly, he hands her the sword. He tells him to forget about the wooden sword and give the scholar a real one. With an even wider smile, he says that a real sword is not enough for what he has in mind. He then tells the maid to give the scholar all the weapons he can find, leaving her stunned. Now in a training yard, Qian starts practicing with the wooden sword. He moves with fluidity and grace, executing the movements of the martial art from the book. The scholar realizes that he does not know the name of the martial art, but the chants are mixed with Buddhist ideology. He realizes that in order to master this art, one must understand the location of the meridians of esoteric Buddhism. The manual was perfectly structured to lead someone to the deviation of I. And that was Mubak's trap. However, Qian read an ancient text on esoteric Buddhism in the Alliance Library and knows the exact location of the meridians. With his eyes closed, he concentrates to begin the process of accumulating energy. With a scream, "Open your eyes," you decided to master the secret technique of the book. Then it accumulates spiritual energy in the blood points of the 7 stars and the 7 origins. By doing this, he executes the movements of the sword with a blue energy flowing around him. He feels that he can reach the secret essence of the sword technique with this means. The scholar knows that no one in the Murin Alliance would know this, as the original book was in Sanskrit. He holds the wooden sword firmly, preparing for the next move, and the only person who read that book and understood its secrets was him. Execute the movements with a speed and incredible precision, unleashing a wave of energy. Qian deduces that the creator of this martial art wanted to use the power of the spiritual meridians, but by using standard internal energy, the practitioner ended up blocking his meridians and ruining himself. The scholar continues practicing with a pained and tense expression on his face. His eyes shine with power as he struggles to master the complex technique. He clenches his teeth, feeling the energy flow through his body intensely and powerfully. The scene changes to a beautiful sunset over the roofs of a temple. Qian's wooden sword drips with sweat on the floor after intense training. The scholar sighs with relief, his body sweaty and his clothes torn, but satisfied with his progress. He realizes that even knowing the location of the meridians, trying to inject energy into all of them at once would cause the deviation. If he revealed this fact to the Nangong clan, he would be expelled as a martial arts thief. The scholar collapses on the floor, exhausted after the intense training and discovery, with a tired smile. He realizes that the clan would never accept a mere scholar to solve an ancient problem. The scene changes to Qian handing a coin to the maid who helped him. The young woman is confused and asks what the money he is giving her is for. The scholar says it's pocket money and the room is a mess, but the maid offers to clean it. With an awkward smile, Qian refuses the help and thanks him for his willingness. The maid is surprised that he is thanking her and does not understand the scholar's attitude. He then says goodbye, telling her that he is going out and to tell anyone looking for him to come back in the evening. The young woman stands there with a confused and worried expression as she watches the scholar leave. Qian walks through the market, watching the merchants and artisans working at their stalls. Continue walking the streets looking for something specific among the establishments. The scholar heard that the largest herbalist shop in Ife is around here and decides to look for it. With her fan in hand, she wonders if the store will have any herbs that can help her mother. Suddenly, he is seen by 2 men who point to him and say they found him. The leader of the group approaches with a threatening look, closely followed by his henchmen. Qian turns around and faces the men with a calm and indifferent expression. The leader of the Dusit gang introduces himself and asks if the scholar has any idea how much money they have lost. The gang surrounds Qian, and the leader asks if the Namgong clan is really going to collect the protection fees. The gang leader says that Qian needs to talk to the clan to let them collect the dues, but the scholar refuses. Qian tells them to complain to the young master Namgong and coldly warns them. He advises them not to risk their lives for a few simple fees and asks if they can with the clan. The gang leader laughs and says that the scholar does not know anything, since someone warned them of his location. From a distance, Muvak smiles maliciously, as it was he who set the trap for the scholar. Qian opens his fan and says that he can already guess who is behind this, undeterred. He then walks towards the thugs with a disconcerting calm, leaving them confused with a mysterious smile. He asks if they have ever heard of a Murin scholar. Qian stands in the middle of the bullies with a confident posture and an intimidating aura. She repeats the question with a defiant look, holding her fan as if it were a weapon. The gang leader scoffs, asking if he's going to do a dance of fans and if he even knows martial arts. The thugs approach the scholar, ready to attack at any time. The leader then gives the order to his men to give the scholar a tender massage. One of the henchmen steps forward with a cruel smile, preparing to attack Qian. The bully quickly approaches with his fist raised, ready to crush the scholar. Qian then says that he made sure of something after reading a book and holds his fan firmly. A blue energy begins to emanate from the fan as the scholar prepares to react. The bully doesn't care and continues his attack, cursing Kian for talking nonsense. But before the punch can connect, Kian uses the energy of the spiritual meridians that acts as a wave. He blocks the punch with his fan, and a burst of energy throws the bully to the ground. The thug screams in pain as he is thrown to the ground with immense force. Impressive. He lies on the ground in the middle of a crater, not understanding what just happened. Qian explains that the energy wave is amplified from a single point and extends outward. The gang leader is shocked and wonders if that brat really learned martial arts. With a dark aura, Qian invites the gang leader to join the fight as well. The man tries to downplay it, saying that they did not show due respect to the scholar, and that it was a misunderstanding. But Qian interrupts him and tells him to stop pretending as he still has things to investigate. The gang leader is terrified by the scholar's intensity and begs him for a moment. Qian grabs him by the face and asks him what his name was, and the man stutters that it's Suki. All the gang members are now kneeling and defeated before the scholar. With a cold look, Qin warns them that if he hears that they charge fees again, he will break all their bones. He says he is being benevolent because they were only charging fees, and the terrified thugs thank him, but the scholar is not finished yet, and says he has more things to investigate with them. The scene then changes to the Hall of 100 Herbs, a large and imposing establishment. Qin enters the tent, and thinks that if they had been stronger opponents, he could have tried the technique better. He looks at his fan, which is in pieces, and realizes that nothing remains intact against the wave of spiritual energy. He remains silent for a moment, and wonders if he should make himself an iron fan, but quickly dismisses the idea, as he is not a martial artist, and his power only works against street thugs. Qian keeps walking around the store, and thinks that his competitive spirit almost shortened his life. He observes the big pharmacy and comments that, as the rumors say, it is really huge. Suddenly, Qian is surprised to see something unexpected in the herbal shop. A beautiful white-haired woman appears holding a tray of herbs with a kind smile. The scholar gasps, and thinks that she is easily one of the 3 most beautiful women he has ever seen in his life. He stands paralyzed for a moment, completely captivated by the beauty of the young woman. Unexpectedly, Mubik is also in the store, and approaches the woman to introduce himself. Qian wonders what that brat is doing there while the young master is flirting with the woman. The princess says she has a lot of work to do, but Mubak insists on knowing her name. She replies that she is just a doctor who stopped by to get some herbs for her job. The young master then remembers hearing about her, and identifies her as Lady Yan Xiaobin. Che Yunyan observes the scene with suspicion, thinking that no one offers kindness without a reason. Mubik fakes a headache, and asks the saint to examine him, but she refuses, saying that she is busy. He perks up with her promise to see him later, and watches her leave with a silly smile. The young master is happy to have finally found a beauty worthy of his admiration. Then he turns around, and is surprised to see Chioma there, asking him what he is doing. The scholar says that he came to buy herbs, and Mobuk stutters that he also came for medicine. Qian looks at the recipe, and wonders if the brat needs a tonic for potency. The young teacher wonders why he needs a broth of wisdom to improve concentration. The scholar gets angry, and asks if this is the kind of art that burns with desire to study. Mubik then changes the subject, and asks if Qian managed to interpret the manual he was given. She teases him by saying that the scholar should not have time to orgashe if he was deciphering the technique. Chun replies that he came out because he needed herbs for the interpretation of the book. He says that he has deciphered some verses, but that it is difficult, and the young teacher mocks his arrogant stance. Mubik says he had high hopes as he is a Hinchi-level scholar, but he is disappointed. With a confident smile, Qian reveals that he has already finished performing some verses perfectly. The young master is silent for a moment, surprised by the unexpected revelation of the scholar. With a mischievous smile, he pretends to believe her, and says that of course he did. He approaches and asks the scholar to tell him a little of what he interpreted from the book. Qian wonders why the young man is so happy and if he really expected him to succeed. The young teacher presses him to speak, saying that no one would understand a line or two anyway. Qian remains silent for a moment, preparing to reveal what he discovered. Then he begins to recite the verses that appear on the first page of the mysterious book. The scholar accurately explains the principles of yin and yang contained in the manual. Mubak is surprised to hear the correct interpretation of the book that no one could decipher. With an excited smile, he realizes that Chen is really a Hinchi-level scholar. The young teacher is impressed and says that none of his other teachers showed such a power of interpretation. Qian asks in a loud and authoritative voice if he has understood the explanation. Mubak answers yes with a smile, enthusiastic, and the scholar wonders if he is being sincere. The young teacher approaches excitedly and calls him writing teacher again. Chiyun asks what she wants now with a tired and bored expression. The young man reveals that guests from the Hu clan will be visiting the day after tomorrow, and Chiyun wonders what it has to do with it. He says that there is a friend of his age among them, and Chilin deduces that he is referring to the young master Juge Duwan. The young teacher invites him to the meeting, saying that he will be able to eat well and drink wine for free. Chilin realizes that the young man wants his help in the meeting of troublemakers and understands why he needed the broth of wisdom. He knows that Hu Dabin is more educated than the others, as his clan has always valued wisdom. The scholar has heard that Dabin likes to show off at these meetings, using the 4 arts. He mocks the young teacher, wondering how ignored he must be to ask for a favor. With a smile, that rogue thinks that a brat battle sounds very entertaining. Qian is eager to see one troublemaker get humiliated by another, and finds it incredibly funny. Mudik pressures him to join the meeting, and the scholar is amused by the situation. Imagine the 2 young teachers arguing, and think that a brat battle sounds interesting. Suddenly, Chen feels something strange in his body and clutches his chest in alarm. He staggers back, feeling the effects of the unstable energy on his body. He remembers the princess and realizes that he needs to find the energy of the stars quickly. Mobuk glares at him and asks what he's looking at, saying he can just say no if he doesn't want to go. The scholar then notices that the young master exudes an energy similar to that of Pangshan, and decides to check it with a serious air. He says he accepts the invitation, leaving the young man surprised and happy. However, he sets 2 conditions for participating in the meeting of the young teachers. The young man complains about the demands, but asks what the conditions are, curious to know. Qian then says that the first condition is that he allows her to take his pulse. Mubuk is surprised and asks why the scholar wants to take his pulse. Qian explains that he saw the young man preparing the broth of wisdom, and that taking it incorrectly can damage the brain. Mubuk gets upset and says that he knows the risks of playing with meridians and questions the scholar's logic. The scholar replies that it would be a disaster if the broth interfered with his cultivation of high-level martial arts. The young teacher agrees and tells Qin to take his pulse quickly to make sure everything is okay. He says that it would be terrible if his brilliant brain were damaged and brags about his intelligence. The young man concludes that the scholar gains nothing by hurting him, so trust his assessment. Qin accepts and starts taking Mubak's pulse with a serious expression. He decides to inject some spiritual energy to see if there is any reaction from the young man. The scholar concentrates and anxiously waits for a response from the young master's body. He hopes that his arrival to the Nangong clan will not be in vain, and that he will find what he is looking for. Suddenly, he feels a weak but definite energy coming from Mubak's wrist. With his eyes wide open, he recognizes the energy of the Boca star, one of the 7 stars he is looking for. The young teacher notices Chen's shocked expression and asks what the problem is. The scholar remains silent for a moment, processing the incredible discovery he has just made. With an excited smile, he says that there is no problem, and that the energy in his brain is strong. Mubak gets chills from the scholar's reaction, and boasts that even Qian is impressed by his intellect. Then he asks what is the second condition for the scholar to attend the meeting. With a mysterious smile, Qian reveals that the second condition is to observe the young man's training. The young master is surprised and asks why he wants to observe his training. Qian begins to explain his reasoning, saying that for a clan with a distinguished history like the Nangong, and goes on to say that in order to interpret the technique, he needs to understand the principles of the clan's other martial arts. Mubak is surprised, as scholars usually look down on martial arts as something vulgar. He wonders if what he is seeing is a real scholar who is dedicated to deeply understanding the technique. With an excited smile, the young teacher decides that he will make him interpret the manual he is currently learning. He thinks if it works, great, but if not, it doesn't matter, and he laughs at the idea. The young man agrees to have the scholar observe his training, but sets his own condition. Chien wonders if he will have to interpret another manual, but Muvak only tells him to report tomorrow. The scholar accepts with a mischievous smile, amused by the turn of events. The next day, the young teacher is undecided about whether to show the manual to the scholar. Tired of his hesitation, Chien impatiently snatches the book out of his hand and glares at it. The scholar reads the title and is surprised to see that it is the Unlimited Blue Sky Sword Arts Manual. He is shocked because this is one of the 2 great arts of the Nangong clan, and one of the best of Murin. Chen wonders why the young man keeps showing him secret manuals. With a suspicious look, he wonders if the young master is completely crazy. Mobuk smiles and asks what he thought of the manual with an expression of superiority. The scholar asks if it is safe to show a clan's secret technique to an outsider like him. The young man replies that he is not, but that he can do it, because he really wants to master the technique. Chin is silent for a moment, surprised by the young master's sincerity and determination. Mubat goes on to say that with his superior talent, it would be nice to master the technique faster than his brothers. He adds that because Chin worked in the Alliance, he knows the laws of Murin, and won't go around blabbing. The young master says he doesn't know anything, and tells the scholar to just read and interpret the technique for him. He then offers 300 if the scholar can interpret the manual correctly. Chen asks if he will give it to him again in heavy coins, but the young man promises to give him a bill. With the deal closed, Mubik begins his sword training with fast and powerful movements. He executes the technique with great skill, while Chin watches him and reads the manual. The scholar seems surprised and fascinated by what he is reading in the secret book of the clan. He is enchanted by the beauty of the sword art, which is like a song to the infinite sky. Meanwhile, the young master screams and gives his all in his intense training. Chien watches him with a bored and disinterested expression at the young man's screams. Buck continues to train with ferocity and determination, unleashing all his power. He screams with effort, while executing the complex movements of the sword technique. The young master continues his training with loud and exaggerated screams and movements. The scholar complains that it is too noisy and that the shouting is excessive. Mubik concentrates on his next move, releasing a powerful war cry, but Chin interrupts him and shouts at him to shut up and conserve his energy. He explains that this sword art requires conserving every breath, and that shouting disperses his energy. The young man is silent for a moment, surprised by the scholar's correction. Then he continues his training in silence, with a new focus and concentration. Their movements become more fluid and precise, without wasting energy. Screams, he executes the technique with a grace and a power that he did not have before, impressing even himself. Che Yan is impressed with the young man's movements, although the energy of the Boca star has not yet manifested. He realizes that Mubik is not just any brat, and that he has great potential. With a mischievous smile, the scholar encourages him to train more to manifest that energy. The young master continues his training with jumps and acrobatic movements in the air. He lands gracefully and prepares for the next move with the sword in his hand. With an expression of effort, he continues to practice the sword technique with dedication. Suddenly, his sword falls to the ground, and he is shocked by what just happened. Chen watches him with a neutral expression, holding the manual in his hands. Mubik comes up and says that before he didn't have the control of breathing or to finish a shape, but today he has completed the first form for the first time, and asks how the scholar knew about it. Chien lies and says that he only said that because the young man was annoying and loud. Then he explains that the text says that you have to conserve your breath, and that this is common sense in martial arts. The young master is confused. He says he read the text dozens of times, but he never saw that part. The scholar then points out a line about the firmness of a candle flame, and asks why they used that word. Muvak finally understands that the unwavering flame of the candle meant that his breath should not escape. He's shocked, since this interpretation was not even in the official comment of the clan. The young man praises Kian, and says that he was able to execute the first form thanks to his help, but admits that he does not know anything about the chants that follow in the technique. He explains that he can do the movements, but he cannot express the technique without knowing the meaning. Chien teases him, and tells him that if he doesn't know, why doesn't he execute the technique in front of him? Mo. Buck is shocked by the scholar's suggestion and wonders if he really should do it. Chien points at him and says, "He is the teacher and the young man is the student, and he cannot have educated. No respect." He then turns around and says that maybe he should go to young Master Lee, leaving Newback upset. The scholar provokes him by saying that he heard that his older brother practices something similar and questions his lack of respect. With a confident smile, Chien plants the seed of ambition in the heart of the young master. He says that it is possible that Newbacks is the first of direct lineage to reach the secret essence of the sword art. The young man is surprised at the possibility and wonders if he can really be the first to reach the essence. He clenches his fists, determined to prove his worth and show his potential to the world. With an excited smile, he agrees to show the scholar the technique without hesitation, but hesitates when trying to show respect. And Chien corrects him by saying that it is not done that way. Meanwhile, the patriarch approaches the training ground with a serious expression. She wonders if her son is tormenting the new scholar and prepares to intervene. The patriarch decides that if the boy is doing something evil, he will scold him severely. But upon arriving, he hears Chien authoritatively tell Newback to do the technique again. From a distance, the patriarch watches and hears the scholar instructing his son to think about the meaning of the chant. He is surprised to realize that the scholar is really teaching his son something. Newback responds enthusiastically, calling Che a teacher and showing unexpected respect. The patriarch is shocked to see his son, who hardly uses honorary titles with his own siblings, being polite to a scholar. He realizes that the rumors about Chien rehabilitating Panks were still true. With a smile, he decides that he should not stand idly by, and that he should reward the scholar generously. Chien corrects Newback by saying that the name of the technique is Unlimited Blue Sky Sword Arts, and that sky is in the name. The patriarch is shocked to realize that his son has revealed the clan's secret technique to the scholar. He can't believe that his son has shown the secret clan technique to a mere scholar. Furious, the patriarch decides that he will capture them both immediately to resolve the situation. Chien then tells Newback to think carefully about what he is doing. He explains that if he removed the unnecessary branches of chance, everything would be reduced to a single truth. With a confident smile, he prepares to reveal the essence of the technique to the young master. The patriarch hears Chien's words and is surprised by the depth of his knowledge. The truth is that, although the mountain is high, it is under the heavens, and the water flows over the earth. Newback sits down to meditate and reflects on the meaning of the words of the scholar. Understand that no matter how high the mountain is, it will always exist under the sky. He plunges into a state of deep concentration, seeking to understand the essence of the technique. Suddenly, his eyes open with an intense blue glow, and he reaches a new level of perception. Chien watches, and is impressed to see that the young man found the mental image instantly. The sun sets as the young master continues to meditate and deepen his understanding. The patriarch watches from a distance with an expression of pride and admiration for his son. Meanwhile, Chien continues to read the manual with a calm and thoughtful expression. After a long time, Newback opens his eyes, his face sweaty but with a new clarity. His eyes shine with a golden light, and he says he thinks he understands a little. With a smile, he says he can finally see the way forward in his cultivation. He explains that there is nothing greater than heaven, and that it encompasses all things in its immensity. With the sword held high, he channels the energy of the blue sky into his newfound technique. Chien observes him and wonders if the path to the essence is becoming visible to the young man. Newbacks holds the sword firmly and understands that the blue sky extends infinitely without limits. And that is the true meaning of without limits contained in the name of the sword art. With eyes shining with determination, she prepares to unleash all her power. An explosion of golden energy emanates from his sword as he executes the blow. He laughs with joy as he cuts through the air with a strength and precision he has never achieved before. With a wild smile, she celebrates her progress and feels amazing with her new power. The young master turns to Chien and asks him to enlighten him more with his wisdom. The scholar observes him with a calm and enigmatic expression, ready to guide him. With a sly smile, he says that a bird flying in the sky does not have a prescribed way of flapping its wings. He explains that in order to perfect the art of the sword, one must free oneself and fly freely. Chien provokes him by saying that since he has lived his whole life as a scoundrel, he knows that feeling well. The young man is silent for a moment, surprised by the depth of the scholar's words. He looks at the scholar from a distance, processing the new lesson he has just learned. Mubek wonders if, having lived like a scoundrel, he really knows freedom. She clutches her chest, feeling a strong and overwhelming emotion for. Moderate yourself from your heart. Suddenly, he begins to laugh out loud, a laugh of pure joy and understanding. He says that those words are correct, and that they give him chills. From a distance, the patriarch observes and realizes that his own perception was erroneous and limited. He understands that with his narrow vision, he would never reach the true essence of the sword art. The patriarch walks away, reflecting that he never lived freely, and that's why he was trapped. He walks away with a new understanding of himself and the art he practices. With a smile, she realizes that her youngest son could be the first to achieve true mastery. Mubek screams, wondering what is this emotion he feels for the first time. He reflects that he lived as a scoundrel just to feel freedom, rejecting everything around him. But now she wonders if this emotion she feels is the true freedom she sought for so long. Time. Chien watches him, lying on the floor, exhausted, but with a look of pure enlightenment on his face. The scholar realizes that the young man is following a path similar to that of Pan Sol En, but perhaps faster. With a smile, he wonders if it's time to move on to the next stage of his plan. Remember that there are 7 stars in the Big Dipper, each with a unique energy. Among them, the most destructive and powerful is the Star of the Broken Army, the Martial Star. The scholar reveals that those with the celestial martial body are born with the destiny of this star. They are destined to destroy themselves and face their end, unless they can change their destiny. To escape this, he needs to absorb the energy of the other stars, just as he did with Sunny Bread. The scene shifts to Chien's quarters, where he seems worried about something. He realizes that the patriarch overheard his conversation with Mubek, and smells a faint aroma in the air. In one breath, he recognizes the aroma of Patriarch Namgong, and understands that he has been discovered. The scholar knows that for an outsider like him, seeing a secret manual is a problem punishable by death. At that very moment, the servant appears, and says that the patriarch has requested an urgent meal. Chien says that he understands and that he will go to the clan leader immediately. The servant wonders how he knew about the situation, and why his expression seems so gloomy. Later, a splendid table is served with various delicacies, and fresh fruits for the meal. The scholar sits at the table with a tense expression, waiting for the patriarch's arrival. The clan leader appears, and welcomes the scholar with a serious and imposing expression. Then he introduces his wife, who is sitting next to him, with an enigmatic smile. Chien bows respectfully, and says it's an honor to meet her, but he's clearly nervous. The patriarch stares at him with an indecipherable expression, increasing the tension in the air. Suddenly, his wife scolds him, and asks him why he lied to her about something. The scholar remains silent, completely confused by the couple's argument. The woman complains that her husband did not tell her that the scholar was so handsome, and that she has not seen a man like him in years. The patriarch smiles, and says he understands what he meant. He then apologizes to Chien for taking his time. The scholar replies that it is no bother, and that it is an honor to have been invited. The clan leader's wife comments that she heard that Chien was famous even in the Murin Alliance. The woman praises him for calling the eradication of corruption notoriety, and finds it admirable. Then she asks him if he knows any poems about fighting injustice, as he does. With a smile, she begins to recite the poem, surrounded by imaginary cherry blossoms. The scholar replies that injustice cannot be higher than the pine tree, and will be shaken by the wind. The woman praises him for his knowledge of poetry and calligraphy, as well as painting and music. Chien replies with a forced smile that he simply became interested in those arts as hobbies. He wonders if he was worrying about nothing, and tries to relax in front of the couple. Suddenly, the patriarch knocks on the table with his hand, startling his wife. The woman stares at him, surprised by her husband's sudden change of mood. Chien remains silent with a nervous smile, not knowing what to expect from the situation. The patriarch then says to put aside courtesies and discuss official business. With a gloomy look, he tells the scholar to speak honestly about what happened. He confronts him, saying that he knows that seeing them will make you secret clan techniques is a crime punishable by death. Chien is shocked to realize that the patriarch knows everything and can't hide his surprise. The clan leader asks in a threatening voice if he saw the chance of the secret technique. The room becomes tense and silent as the scholar meets the patriarch's furious gaze. The patriarch repeats the question with an even angrier expression, waiting for an answer. Chien realizes that he knew about his conversation with Mubek and feels cornered. He feels the oppressive pressure of the patriarch, and his mind races to find a way out. The scholar is looking for a way to escape from the dangerous situation he has got himself into. He decides that he should appeal to the patriarch's wife, knowing that Mubek is his weak point. Calmly and respectfully, answer yes. It was at the request of the young teacher that he saw the manual. The patriarch disdainfully asks if that is his only excuse for the crime he committed. Chien then explains that he saw desperation in Mubek's eyes when he showed him the art of the sword. He says that he realized that this martial art was the only thing that could correct the behavior of the young man. The patriarch contemptuously asks if he used a secret technique to correct the behavior of a scoundrel. Chien responds with a saying, "If you eliminate one evil, 10 virtues will grow." The patriarch accuses him of only making excuses to see the secret arts and help his son. The scholar says that it is not only that and that he saw something else inside the young master. He reveals that he saw the temperament of a hero in Mubaki, who has the potential to shake up the world. Chien adds that the young man might even surpass the young hero Panzolin in greatness. The patriarch's wife is surprised and wonders if her son is comparable to the genius Panzolin. The scholar smiles maliciously, knowing that he has touched the weak point of the mother. The patriarch is not convinced and asks if his son is just a mediocre with some talent. Chien explains that the young master possesses a free soul, but he felt trapped like a bird in a cage. He goes on to say that, because of this, the young man felt like an ordinary chicken or duck. The patriarch's wife is thrilled to hear that her son acted like this to overcome his self-deprecation. The patriarch still finds the story a little exaggerated, and is not entirely convinced, but his wife scolds him, saying that the scholar is right in his words. She wonders if anyone has ever tried to understand her son's heart and cared about him. With tears in her eyes, she regrets feeling so suffocated and misunderstood. She then thanks Chien for helping her realize her son's true feelings. The patriarch yells at his wife, reminding her that one of the clan's secret arts has been revealed. The woman replies that, as she is not a martial artist, she does not understand the gravity of the situation, but as a mother, she says that she would sell any manual to save her son because he is more precious. Chien remains silent, completely surprised by the turn of events at the table. The patriarch's wife then knocks on the table and suggests a punishment for the scholar. He proposes that they cut off his arm and forgive him, but Chien is horrified at the idea. The patriarch looks at her with a serious and indecipherable expression, without reacting to her proposal. The scholar then stands up and solemnly promises that he will never reveal the clan arts. He swears that if he breaks his promise, they can take both of his arms, and he won't hold a grudge. The patriarch says he will give him a chance and reveals a new challenge. He reminds her that the Suge clan will visit them tomorrow and ask for a duel to humiliate her son. The patriarch explains that his youngest son has never won against the young master of the Suge clan. Chien understands that his task is to ensure that Vak wins the duel tomorrow. The patriarch confirms this and makes an irresistible offer to the scholar in exchange for his services. He promises to appoint him to a position that will grant him the right to see the secret techniques. The scholar is surprised by the proposal, but he knows that there is a price to pay for this opportunity. The patriarch warns him that if he fails, he will have to offer his head as punishment for his failure. With a serious look, he points to Chien and says that a man like him knows what all this means. The scholar remains silent, processing the life-or-death proposal he has just received. He realizes that the patriarch's intention is to keep him by his side, but he needs a justification. The couple stares at him, and Chien understands that the patriarch needs a reason to convince him. The justification is to persuade the elders and the clan's senate to accept his presence. The patriarch then says that if Chien can really give his son wings, he will be able to fly freely. With a gesture of respect, Chien bows to the patriarch and his wife. He then turns around and leaves the room, leaving the couple behind with their thoughts. The patriarch and his wife observe the scholar walking away with thoughtful expressions. The woman hugs her husband and says that he planned to keep the scholar close at all times. He then asks her if she had intended to employ Chien from the beginning. The patriarch embraces his wife and asks her if she knows why the scholar came to the clan. He explains that Qian is a man who fought against the elders of the alliance and resisted all threats. The patriarch adds that he was the one who turned Pansal and from garbage into a human being. The woman is glad to hear that her husband brought such an amazing person to help their son. The patriarch says that he is glad that she likes it and hugs her affectionately. The scene changes the next day, with the clan courtyard full of people. The guests of the Suge clan arrive, led by a man of noble and imposing appearance. Everyone greets each other and prepares for the meeting, union, and the friendly duel that is coming. The young master of the Suge clan wonders why Mubik has not yet appeared for the duel. With a mischievous smile, Suge Dowan says that she wants to play with him soon, showing her arrogance. Meanwhile, Mubik trains intensively with his sword under the supervision of the scholar. Encourages him to think about the meaning of the movements, and not just to execute them. The young teacher shouts with effort, and obeys his teacher with a new determination. Suddenly, the patio door opens, and one of the guests arrives with an air of defiance. Qian and Mubik continue their training without stopping. Suge Du-Won arrives and wonders why the Nam Gong clan's gate is so low and unimpressive. With a wry smile, he calls Mubik little brother Nam Gong, and teases him. Qian observes the scene, and is amused by the nickname that the young master gave to his rival. Bax faces his opponent with a serious expression, ready for the duel ahead. Yuan provokes him, asking him if he trained for the duel, and saying that he doesn't seem happy to see him. The young master replies that he has been dying for another chance against him. Qian observed the rival, and thinks that he didn't look so tall when he saw him in the alliance. Dogan asks him if he has shrunk a little, but Mubik asks him if he has not grown up. Then he slaps Mubik on the head, and tells him that little brother Nam Gong has become even more adorable. The young man gets upset, and asks if he came just to brag about his height. Du-Won is surprised and asks him if he thinks he would brag about something so trivial. He says he has a lot to brag about, such as martial arts, erudition, and music. Mubik clenches his fists, and calls him arrogant, ready to start the fight. Du-Won then points to Qian, and asks if his arrogance is due to that new guy. He gets upset with the scholar who has not even greeted him, and just fans himself with arrogance. With a shout, he asks the scholar's name, demanding an immediate answer. Qian turns around with a calm expression, and introduces himself as Qian Tessin. Yuan repeats the name and gets annoyed, saying that the scholar also has a short tongue. He decides that he is going to correct the customs of both, and prepares for the duel. Suddenly, he recognizes the name Qian Tessin, and is shocked by the revelation. Su Gejuan is shocked to recognize the famous ghostly scholar of the Murin Alliance. Then he wonders why the hell the famous scholar would be here, in the Nangong clan. The three young masters face off in the training yard, creating a tense atmosphere. Du-Won then remembers that he is the guy who managed to change brother Pan Solan. Qian asks with a smile why the young man looks at him, as if he has seen a ghost. The rival says that he thought the scholar would be in the Peng clan, since Pan Solan said he would take him there. Then he wonders if the tutor is not as amazing as the rumors said, and that's why he was fired. It seems strange to Dowan that the elder Gao, who hates Qian, let him get out of the alliance in one piece. With a smile, the scholar replies that he decides where he goes and what he does, and adds that now he has some business to attend to right here, in this place. The rival asks if this is the first time they have seen each other, since he has heard so many rumors. That he feels as if they have already met. Qian says that they have met a couple of times in the alliance, but that the young master probably doesn't remember. He then reveals that the inspection bureau investigated Duan when he caused that incident. The young man gets angry at the scholar's audacity and calls him cheeky in front of everyone. Hiding behind his fan, Qian says it was a Su mistake, and that old habits are hard to eradicate. With a mocking smile, she says that she must have unintentionally upset him, and offers him a false apology. Suge Duan is further irritated by the scholar's smug attitude. Qian reminds him that while he is 1 year older than Mubik, he is 2 years older himself, older than Du-Won. The young master of the Suge clan is completely furious at the scholar's disrespect. With a sigh, he puts his hand to his head. Hold Du-Won thinks that the scholar really has the guts to stand up to even the elder Gao. He then scoffs at the idea of using honorifics with Qian. Just because he is 2 years older, the rival says that he will continue to talk informally, and that the scholar can do the same if he wants. With a smile, Qian replies that since he's the older brother, It's okay to be casual. Don is surprised by the scholar's boldness and points him out by calling him a brat. Buck thinks it's weird that someone dares to informally speak to the direct lineage of the 5 great clans. He realizes that the scholar acts as if there is no tomorrow, and that his attitude was not a farce. With an admiring smile, the young teacher says that this rigid attitude of the tutor imposes his respect, who then transforms into his ghostly character and asks if Duan does not like him to talk informally. The rival is terrified by the dark aura of the scholar, who asks him if he should leave informality. Don clears his throat to compose himself and suggests that they have lunch together at noon to change the subject. Then he says that he will see Mubik in the garden and invites Kian to come too, as he found it interesting. As the rival walks away, the scholar thanks him for seeing him with kind eyes, who then calls him Little Duan, saying he's funnier than he thought. The young master of the Suge clan suddenly stops, surprised and annoyed by the nickname he received. He is shaking with rage, but he does not turn around, so as not to lose his composure in front of everyone. With a furious smile, he decides that he is going to settle the accounts with this insolent scholar. Mubik watches his rival walk away, while Qian remains calm by his side. The young teacher is speechless for a moment, trying to process what just happened. Suddenly, he runs towards Qilin, surprised by his speed to dodge. With an admiring smile, Mubik says that the Qilin scholar is even more amazing than he thought. Then he asks if it is true that he sent the terrible old woman to hell, and if he is really provoking his Gedoan. Running to his side, the young master also wants to know if it's true that he turned Brother Pan soon into a human being. With a smug smile, Qian remarks that the honorifics seem to have stuck to his student's tongue now. The young man says that after seeing the interpretation of the manual, and how he handled Duan, he could not help but recognize him. And the scholar agrees that it is a good change. Mubik then scratches his head, and admits that although the tutor says he has changed, he himself does not feel the change. Qian reveals that Pansoon was like that too at first, and the young master warns him not to say his name so lightly. He is terrified, and explains that, unlike him, that guy starts a fight first, and the scholar could get seriously injured. The tutor calmly replies that he and the other young teacher are not friends. With a confident smile, he reveals that Panso Una actually calls him Big Brother. The young man doubts it, saying that this guy looks at the scholars as if they were stray dogs, and that Qian tells really bad jokes. The scholar simply stares at him in silence, neither confirming nor denying the story he has just told. Mubik is completely surprised by the possibility, and points at his teacher wordlessly. Then he stutters and asks out loud if that's really true. The scene then changes, and the two arrive at a beautiful garden with a large pavilion and a serene lake. Qian observes the place and asks if this is the famous demon subjugation garden. The young teacher confirms this and begins to tell the story of the place, saying that it all happened 50 years ago. In a flashback, we see warriors fighting against a demonic cult that rose up in the martial world. He explains that the ancestors of the Nam Gong clan fought at the front, but most of them ended up falling into a great tragedy. With a sad look, the young man reveals that this is the main reason why the unlimited blue sky sword art was not fully transmitted. Mubik explains that in order to never forget the resentment and will of his ancestors, they named the garden after him. Qian comments that it is a place with a very important meaning for the history of the clan. Inside the pavilion, his Gedoan relaxes and listens to music with a courtesan by his side. The young master is furious to see that his rival has called courtesans to the demon-subduing garden. He confronts him, saying that anyone who saw him would think he owns the place, calling courtesans here. Dowan says that in his clan, not even a direct descendant like him can easily summon courtesans, but here, they are given to a stranger. A musician plays a soft melody, while the young master of the Suge clan praises the generosity of the Nam Gong clan. Mubik becomes extremely irritated by the taunt, and clenches his fists, ready to fight. Qian then puts a hand on his chest, and asks the young master not to get upset about the situation. With a confident smile, the scholar tells his student that he will take care of everything. He then advises the young man to just sit back and enjoy whatever his rival is trying to do. Qian walks over and greets little Yuan, asking him if he's been having fun. The young master of the Suge clan is annoyed by the nickname, but keeps his composure in front of everyone. With a smile, the scholar invites his student to come in and join the party. The young man hesitates for a moment, but finally agrees to enter the pavilion with his teacher. With a cry of excitement, he prepares for the competition that is about to begin. Suddenly, a hand stops the musical instrument, and Yuan says don't make him laugh with that music. Then he takes the instrument and stands up, getting ready to show his own talent. The rival explains with a cold look that, as he was bored alone, he asked for a pipe performance. He says he thought about having the musician play for little brother Mubek and scholar Qian. With his nimble fingers, his Gedogan begins to play a beautiful melody on the instrument. The soft music floats through the pavilion as everyone watches her performance. With his eyes closed, he gives himself completely to the melody, showing his concentration. In the background, some men are watching the performance of the talented young teacher. Meanwhile, Qian and Mubek relax and listen to the music with calm expressions. Suddenly, the opponent thinks with a smile that his thinking was a little limited. He then teases Mubek by saying that since he only trains, he probably doesn't understand anything about music. The young teacher gets upset, and the rival pretends to apologize for not being considerate. Having his tea, Qian realizes that Duan wants to destabilize his student before the duel. Duan then offers to explain the music to his ignorant little brother. But Qilin explains that the music is famous for being a morning song by a great artist. The young master of the Suge clan is surprised and comments that the scholar understands music. With a confident smile, the tutor says that he knows the 10 great songs and even plays them. The rival then looks towards the garden and announces that, at the perfect moment, she has arrived. Qian and Mubek look at each other confused, wondering who he is talking about. Wan explains that he called an audience because a good performance deserves to be seen. With a mischievous smile, he reveals that he also invited a very special guest. Then he introduces the best courtesan of a fae, who approaches with elegance. One of the men in the audience recognizes her as Jin Yo, from the Heavenly Pleasure Pavilion. The beautiful woman walks with her assistant behind, with a charming smile, the courtesan Qian. I brag about her stunning beauty. Mubek is captivated by the woman's beauty, while Qian watches her with indifference. Dowan thinks that his rival is just showing off his authority by inviting the famous courtesan. He also wants her to listen and evaluate his music, but the scholar sees through his intentions. With a malicious smile, the rival invites everyone to have an expert evaluate his sound. He reveals that he is eager to see scholar Qian's musical skills in action. In the garden, everyone gathers to witness the talent duel between the young masters. 2 men arrive at the scene, and one of them comments on this year's friendly duel. The other man responds with disdain by saying that the result is already obvious, as always. But the first man says that this year will be different, and that things are going to change. The man then asks if the young master Mubek has attained some kind of enlightenment. The patriarch's companion replies that he has finally begun to use his head a little. With a wry smile, the man of the Suge clan responds with a simple yes. He then says that since the duo represent their clans, they should make a bet. The man suggests that they bet the escort agency's cargo rights on the result of the duo. The patriarch's companion thinks that he is a cunning snake trying to solve the dispute with a simple duo. With a smile, he accepts the bet and says that the idea sounds very funny. The man of the Suge clan smiles victoriously, believing that he has already won the dispute. The courtesan Qianyo then thanks them for the invitation and introduces herself as Sanyang. Du-Wan smiles with satisfaction and says that the preparations are complete. As the audience has gathered, he then says that Anui's best music has also arrived to judge the duel. Du-Wan invites everyone to start the duel and leaves the trial to the lady, Qianyo. He turns to Qian and asks him with a smile if he's not nervous about the challenge. With a piece of fruit in his mouth, the scholar replies that he is hardly nervous, and that he is excited to touch a little. With a mischievous smile, he suggests that if they are going to compete, they should play the same song. The young master of the Suge clan is surprised and wonders what the scholar is up to. Qian remains silent for a moment, instrument in hand, waiting for his rival's response. After some thought, Duan accepts the condition, but says that he will choose the song. Then she challenges him to play White Snow in Early Spring, as she knows the 10 great songs. The scholar replies that the song is basic, and that he has played it several times. With a confident smile, he says he has no problem playing that song. The rival does not believe him, and thinks that he is bragging, since that song is not something that can be mastered with just a few attempts. With a look of hatred, he decides that he is going to crush Qian so hard that she will never dare to challenge him again. With his eyes closed, he begins to play the instrument with impressive concentration. The notes of the music begin to float around the pavilion, creating a magical atmosphere. The courtesan's assistant notices that the airflow changed as soon as she started playing. Then he says that even without being able to see, he can imagine every note falling like a snowflake. The charming melody spreads through the garden, leaving everyone marveling at the skill of the young master. The audience is silent, completely absorbed in the rival's musical interpretation. The notes continue to float in the air, creating a scene of pure beauty and harmony. One of the men wonders if they are struggling with instruments this year. The other replies that it looks like they are just having a little fun before the duel. The man of the Suge clan praises Yuang's intelligence for using music to suppress his opponent's spirit. Then he asks if the young master Mu Bak also understands music, but his partner says she has never seen him with an instrument. The man from the Nam Gong clan then realizes that his writing teacher is intervening for him. The rival is surprised and wonders who this writing teacher could be. Duan finishes his performance and brags that his skill has already reached the level of a master. Qian then wipes his ear out of boredom, and the rival gets annoyed by his attitude. He wonders how a guy who can barely imitate the notes dares to be so arrogant. Yuan challenges him to follow and humiliate himself in front of all these people. Suddenly, he starts playing at a fast pace that sounds like an overwhelming blizzard. His fingers move with incredible speed, unleashing a powerful energy through the strings. The music turns into a snowstorm that envelops the entire pavilion with its intensity. The courtesan observes and comments on the speed of the music impregnated with internal energy. The audience is amazed by the skill of the young master who fills the space with sound. The man of the Suge clan comments that the skill of his prodigy is impressive for someone so young. He explains that because Duan used to cause a lot of trouble, he taught him music to calm him down. And before he knew it, the young man reached a level where he could imitate the masters. He then encourages his little Duan to break his opponent's spirit from the very beginning. The young master challenges the arrogant rookie to show off his pathetic skills as Qian prepares to perform. The man asks his wife who she thinks will win the musical duel. With a confident smile, she says that although Yuan's skills are good, scholar Qian will win anyway. The man is silent for a moment, surprised by the confidence of his wife, who says that it is female intuition. With a calm smile, Qian begins to play the instrument with impressive composure. He sits down and concentrates on the music, while Mu Bak watches him with admiration. With his eyes closed, the scholar surrenders to the melody that begins to flow from his fingers. Suddenly, Duan is shocked to hear his opponent's performance. The courtesan's assistant notes that although they are playing the same song, Qian's interpretation is completely different. He explains that while Duan emphasized the white snow, the scholar seems to be interpreting spring. Mu Bak is surprised by his teacher's skill and whispers his name. The rival admits that the acting is not bad, but says that the scholar is no match for him. A golden aura surrounds Qian as he continues to play with impressive mastery, his eyes shining with rage. Yuan says he will bury everything with his fast music. He unleashes a wave of blue energy from his instrument to dominate Qian's performance. The scholar smiles and thinks that scoundrels are very funny when provoked, and decides to use the energy wave. He then gathers spiritual energy at the tips of his fingers, preparing for a counterattack. With a quick movement, he unleashes a wave of golden energy from his instrument. The courtesan watches in shock and says that the snow is disappearing to Qian's music. Golden butterflies begin to appear and fly around the audience, which is amazed. The scholar relaxes and comments that, as expected, the melody creates 7 atmospheres, and that he plays well. The audience applauds and praises the incredible performance of the 2 musicians. Qian thinks that if he uses this energy well, he can use it in many places, even in the kitchen. Duan is furious with the result, and demands an immediate evaluation from the courtesan. With the instrument in his hands, he stands up and asks Miss Qian Yo to give her verdict. The courtesan says that it was a magnificent performance, but that her assistant will be more precise. He explains that the young woman lost her sight, but gained a sense of hearing that surpasses that of ordinary people. The rival gets angry and asks if he is saying that the girl is better than her, the best of a fae. With a cold look, he scoffs at the idea that a blind girl can judge him. Don then agrees, as since she can't see, she expects a fair evaluation. He then tells the young woman to speak, and of his verdict on the two performances. Out of the corner of his eye, Chien turns around, and the rival asks which of the two songs was superior. Everyone is quietly waiting for the evaluation of the young blind musician. Duan looks at the girl with a confident expression, waiting to be declared the winner. The assistant then says that because her eyes can't see, she doesn't know who played each piece. But with a smile, he reveals that despite this, he clearly saw what happened. He describes that in the middle of the snow, he saw spring blooming, and the snowflakes turned into butterflies. Doan is surprised and asks if he is saying that he is worse than that scholar. Then he turns and looks at Chiang with an expression of pure rage and disbelief. With a sweaty face, he can't believe he was defeated by a newbie. The young master of the Suge clan remains silent, processing his humiliating defeat. Chien praises the assistant, saying that ever since she learned music, she has been looking for Su Hongsiki. Then he says that it looks like Su Hongsiki was here the whole time, and asks her name. The young woman is surprised and blushes at the compliment of the scholar, who looks at her with a kind smile. She introduces herself as Songrin, and says that she is just a blind girl unworthy of being called Hansiki. Suddenly, however, Dabin gets up in a rage, and yells at Mubak asking him what he is doing. She challenged him to the duel and tells him to get his wooden sword so they can start fighting. The young teacher observes him, and comments that he has lost his mind, and is screaming like a madman. With a closed fist, he hits the bench he was sitting on, and shamelessly calls his rival, Mu. Bax then jumps onto the battlefield, and says that he has turned into a screaming colt. He lands with a powerful impact, ready to face his opponent in the duel. The ground cracks under his feet, as he prepares for the fight with a determined look. With a defiant smile, he asks if they should see how much their skills have improved since last year. Dogan is surprised, and thinks that he is not falling for his provocation, and that he is returning the challenge. The scholar observes the scene, and thinks that this brat is suddenly becoming arrogant. Then he says goodbye to the courtesan, and says that he needs to go there quickly. With a smile, he approaches the two women, and formally says goodbye. The assistant turns to her mistress, and tells her that she felt something from that gentleman. He reveals that he felt a very special energy coming from Scholar Chien. The courtesan agrees, saying that her appearance is also quite remarkable, and that she is a special person. Chien approaches Mubak, and the two prepare for a duel. The garden is full of people watching the preparations for the duel between the young masters. The two opponents face off on the battlefield, with Chin and Mubak on the side. The crowd watches expectantly as the two clans prepare for the confrontation. Mubak turns to his master and tells him that he has a question for him about the art of the sword. He explains that while listening to the music earlier, he vaguely felt the fourth form of the sword art. The young man says that he feels that he is about to understand her, but he is still confused, and asks if her address is correct. Chen replies that the fourth form he interpreted is similar to Bui's story. In a flashback, we see the musician Bui, who broke the strings of his instrument after the loss of his friend. The scholar explains that just as Boya had a friend who understood his music, the art of the sword also requires understanding. He then reveals that in order to understand the fourth form, Mubak needs to become Jian Siki and understand Bui. Suddenly, Duan screams and asks if he is now learning martial arts from a scholar. He teases and asks why he talks so much, and if he is asking about his weakness. The patriarch's companion observes the scene with a serious and thoughtful expression. Bak then grabs his wooden sword, and says that martial arts can be learned, even from a scholar. He goes on to say that the path of martial arts is not exclusive to warriors, and that for someone from a clan that values erudition. The young master concludes that his rival's thinking is too limited, and challenges him with his sword. Don is shocked, and thinks angrily about this guy who is challenging him. The man of the Suge clan complains that although they call Don a hidden dragon, his character is terrible. The patriarch is surprised to see his youngest son rebuke his rival using logic and reason. Then he realizes that Mubak has changed a lot since the arrival of the scholar Chin, and values him even more. Mubak is confused, and wonders if he really needs to become a Sang Siki to understand his rival. Then he wonders if he should think of Yuan as a buoy in order to understand it. The young teacher is shocked by the idea and wonders why the hell he should understand that jerk. The opponent gets irritated by the lack of reaction of his opponent and asks him what he is doing. Mubik realizes that in order to become San Young Hiki, he needed to understand his opponent. Don't gets even angrier and wonders how dare that jerk get distracted in front of him. The young teacher concentrates and wonders what kind of guy his rival really is in order to understand his essence. Suddenly, the young master of the Suge clan lunges with his sword and warns him to take care of his legs. He attacks with incredible speed and power, while his eyes glow with blue energy. Mubak confronts him with a calm expression and thinks that his rival is a despicable guy. He understands that until now, he only tried to understand his martial arts, but he needs to go further. The young man realizes that this means that he must understand his behavior and his mind in order to defeat him. With a new understanding, he dodges Duan's attack with ease and grace. The rival is surprised and asks if he has just been training to run away all this time. With a mocking smile, he asks if Mubik does not attack because he is afraid of him. The young master thinks, yes, his rival is a despicable guy who seeks out his opponent's weakness with words. He realizes that watching him try to provoke him now is truly pathetic and smiles disdainfully. With a confident smile, the young man wonders if he has grown up enough to realize this. He then teases Yuan, saying that he was just checking to see if his skills had improved. In a fit of rage, the rival shouts that he must be crazy to want to perish and launches into a final attack. With a mocking smile, Mubik asks if cursing isn't a bit excessive for a friendly duel. Duan lunges with a powerful attack, unleashing a wave of blue energy from his sword. The young master thinks that even his rival's attacks are full of lies and deceit. He realizes that the opponent is pretending to attack his left side to deceive him. But using his advantage, he uses his long arms as a whip for a variable attack. The young man understands that the real target of the attack is his neck and prepares to defend himself. With a confident smile, he says that now that he understands his personality in martial arts, his movements are obvious. Dogen is surprised to see that his plan was discovered so easily by his opponent. Mubik then pounces and realizes that if he continues to provoke and ignore him, he will try to suppress him. He knows that his rival will try to use his power to prove his superiority and crush him. The young master of the Suge clan unleashes a powerful attack, but his opponent blocks it easily. With his sword glowing with green energy, he challenges him to see if he can escape from his sword now. With a quick movement, he delivers a powerful blow towards his rival, but in the blink of an eye, Back grabs his opponent's sword with his bare hands. With a smile, he asks who is running away, while he just grabs the sword. He then intercepts the attack and grabs Duan's wrist with impressive strength. The opponent is surprised and humiliated to realize that his opponent has grabbed his wrist. With a victorious smile, the young master says that now it's his turn to attack. In one swift move, he hits Duan in the face with the hilt of his sword. The young master of the Suge clan yells at him to wait. Mubik attacks his opponent with precision and disarms him with a quick and accurate movement. Then he releases his opponent's hand, showing that the duel is over and he is the victor. With a victorious smile, the young master walks away, while Duan looks at him, defeated. Then he says that since it's a friendly duel, they should end it there with their victory. The crowd cheers the victory of the young master, who proves to be a skilled and intelligent warrior. The man of the Suge clan is silent, completely shocked by the defeat of his prodigy. The patriarch celebrates and says that his youngest son defeated Daben in a duel and that he has won. Then he turns to the scholar Kian and thanks him for his valuable help and guidance. Mubik celebrates and says that, just as the scholar was right, it all comes down to thinking and understanding. Don can't believe it and thinks that there's no way that's his opponent's true ability. Then he deduces that that jerk must be working behind the scenes and using some kind of trick. Meanwhile, Qian is relaxing and fanning himself, enjoying the breeze from the garden. With a bored look, he wonders what is going on and if the fight is already over. With the sword in his hand, the young master proudly declares that he has won the duel. He reflects that, like mountains in flowing water, he never tried to understand what was natural. With a thoughtful look, he realizes that before he did not care about understanding the essence of things. But now that he understands the essence, He sees the way and realizes that the fourth way is the act of understanding oneself. With an excited smile, he turns to his teacher and asks him if his conclusion is correct. Qian looks at him with an expression of complete disinterest and fans himself harder. Moo. Buck is confused and wonders what is the reason for his teacher's disinterested look. Moo Buck feels disheartened and wonders if a man like him is still not good enough. Dowan comes up and says that it is impossible that he won by skill. With a furious look, he says that if it was a real sword, he would have won the duel. The young teacher asks him why he is so angry and if he should consider it a draw if he cares so much. The opponent gets even more irritated and explodes. He demands to know how he read his movements and whether it was the scholar who taught him. From a distance, Qian watches the scene and wonders why they have so much to talk about if the duel is already over. He gets upset about the delay and wonders why they don't end the discussion at once. Mubik offers his opponent yet another chance. Tomorrow, if he really doesn't accept the result. Dowan is surprised by the offer and wonders if he should accept the challenge again. With the sword in his hand, he accepts and says that tomorrow he will check if he really knows how to break his clan's arts. Furious, he shouts that he will find out if he really knows the secrets of his techniques. From a distance, Chen comments with a mocking smile that his rival is like a child who, when he has a hammer, sees everything as a nail. He says that young Master Suge looks exactly like that right now. The rival is irritated by the taunt and rushes towards Qian, ready to attack him. He screams that he left that scholar alone, and now he won't stop provoking him. Dobbin then attacks Qian with his wooden sword, but Mubik intervenes to protect his master. The young master thinks that that jerk is taking out his anger on the scholar Qian. Then he pounces on his rival and says he can't let that happen. With a powerful impact, he stands in front of the attack and says that his teacher still has many manuals to interpret. He then unleashes the fourth form of the boundless blue sky sword art and prepares for a counterattack. With a quick movement, Mubik dodges his opponent's attack with impressive speed. Don is surprised and wonders if it is impossible for him to be faster than him. The patriarch observes the scene and wonders if this is the technique of the blue ray that splits the sea. With a satisfied smile, Qian thinks that his student was really born with martial talent. With a war cry, the young master charges for the attack, sword in hand. He deals a powerful blow that throws Dogan to the ground, defeated and unconscious. The rival gets angry and calls him a rookie without shame, not believing that he has been beaten again. Sword in hand, he prepares for one last desperate attack on his opponent. Do. One yells at him to swallow this and throws his sword at Qian to get revenge. The sword flies at high speed towards the scholar, who is sitting quietly. Mubik screams and warns him to be careful with the sudden and unexpected attack. Qian just looks at him with a calm expression, showing no fear about the situation. It is revealed that those born with the celestial martial body can see incredible things. If you want to see, you can even perceive the raindrops as they fall. The scholar then uses his ability to create a barrier of blue energy around him. He can visualize every detail of the sword's movement as it flies towards him. With a quick movement, he dodges the sword, which passes by brushing him. With a smile, he says that he was close, and unleashes a wave of blue energy from his hands. The man of the Suge clan watches the scene, and wonders how the sword got there. Then he pulls his sword out of the sheath. The patriarch barely manages to dodge the sword, but is surprised by the power of the attack. The two wooden swords are now pinned to the ground after the intense confrontation. The man of the Suge clan stands up and says he is fine, while the patriarch watches him with concern. The leader of the Nangan clan notes that the sword carried a rotation that made it more powerful. Understand that the rotation was added to the sword while it was in motion. The patriarch realizes that, since the rotation was hidden by Chen's sleeve, it seemed that he had simply dodged it, but in reality, the sword came out amplified with much more force than when it entered. Then he remembers the fifth form of the sword art, the ascension of the Azure Dragon, and is stunned. The patriarch cannot believe that the scholar not only interpreted the opportunity, but also used the technique. He thinks that knowing the theory and using it are two completely different things, and that it must be a coincidence. The man of the Suge clan can't believe that even if he is an unparalleled genius, he could do something like this. He then yells at Du for not accepting the result, and trying to smear his clan name. The young master bows his head in shame, and his teacher teaches him that one must learn to lose. With a sweaty and humiliated face, Duan feels like a silly child in front of everyone. Then he kneels on the ground, completely defeated, and without the strength to continue. Nubik celebrates and says that he manifested the blue ray that splits the sea on his first attempt. With an excited smile, he brags that, as expected, he is an unparalleled genius. The man of the Suge clan then bids farewell to the patriarch, saying that he must leave immediately. The Nam Gung clan leader is surprised and says that they haven't solved the escort agency issue yet. The patriarch warns that the loss to the Suge clan will be significant and asks if he is sure. The man from the Suge clan says he hopes that today's events will be resolved well in the end. The patriarch reassures him and tells him not to worry about today's events. He assures him that no unpleasant rumors will reach the outside world, but the man doubts it. With a smile, the Nam Gong clan leader says of course not, and asks him to seal a deal. The man of the Suge clan laughs and comments that he had already anticipated everything that was going to happen. With a pen in her hand, she says that she envies the patriarch for having such a promising son. Then he comments that Mubake used to cause problems, but now he has matured a lot. The patriarch's companion says that he supposes that he got some enlightenment after studying with Chillin. The man asks if you mean the scholar who was playing the instrument earlier. Then he remembers that he was called the Chillin scholar and wonders if he is the famous ghostly scholar. The patriarch looks at him with a serious expression, neither confirming nor denying the identity of the tutor. The scene changes to a dark night with a full moon shining over the mountains. Two mysterious figures enter an isolated cabin, wearing capes and masks to hide. It is revealed that they are a white-haired woman and her maid, ready for a mission. With a torch in hand, they walk through a dark and mysterious cave. The two carefully explore the cave, looking for something specific and important. Suddenly, they find a large ice crystal with a female figure trapped inside. The woman inside the crystal seems to be in a deep sleep, completely frozen. The glass starts to melt, and the woman wonders what the hell is going on. She is surprised and wonders if the ice crystal is not melting right now. A lonely hut is covered with snow in the middle of an icy mountainous landscape. The torchlit cave shakes and cracks with a deafening noise. The two women observe the ice crystal, which continues to melt rapidly. The white-haired woman touches the glass and wonders how this can be happening. Then she thinks that the only ones who possess the energy to melt the crystal are her and the palace master. The maid asks if, with the awakening of the glacial sacred body, they will be able to claim the ice palace. With a determined look, the woman replies that of course, since they will have the necessary power. He explains that the glacial sacred body possesses much greater abilities than the third guardian is aware of. Back in the garden, the patriarch observes the man of the Suge clan approaching Chin. He then asks if his name is really Scholar Chin, and the tutor respectfully confirms it. The man says that a scholar of his caliber should not waste time in a martial family. With a smile, Chen thanks him for his words, but says he still has work to do there. The man insists and asks her to go to his clan and do something with Yuan, who is causing problems. Then she tries to tempt him with an offer of a higher salary, saying that her clan knows how to treat a scholar. Suddenly, a shadow appears, and the man of the Suge clan is surprised to see the patriarch. The leader of the Nangong clan says that would be difficult, since the scholar has a lot to do. What to do there? The man then asks for a chance, and the patriarch lets Chen answer what he thinks. The scholar then says that there is a saying, whoever wants to succeed, finds a way, and with a serious expression, completes it by saying, whoever does not, always finds an excuse. The man of the Suge clan smiles, and says that it was a funny answer, and that he will leave. With a furious shout, the man of the Suge clan calls his men to leave. His followers reply that yes, and that the meeting is over, and they leave. With a sigh of frustration, he turns around, and leads his entourage out of the Namgong clan. The two clans say goodbye, and the Suge clan delegation leaves after the duel. The patriarch comments that people who don't know anything about Scholar Chiyun are just being greedy. Then she thanks the tutor, and says that thanks to him, her youngest son now behaves like a human being. With a smile, Chiyun says that the young master is like steel that needs to be forged with praise. The Nam Gong clan leader agrees, and says he will keep that in mind when dealing with his son. The scene then changes to a bustling market with several stalls and people walking. The courtesan and her assistant walk through the market, while being watched by hooded figures. The young musician seems distracted, and her mistress catches her eye with a tap. The courtesan asks if the performance of the scholar Chin has stuck in her head. With a smile, the assistant says that even in the pleasure pavilion, where she has heard many melodies, she says that she has never heard a song like the scholar's, and that it was a unique experience. The courtesan agrees, and says that even she could not escape from the persistent feeling of the music. The assistant then feels something strange, and suddenly stops with a worried expression. Suddenly, a group of hooded female warriors walks past them, with a powerful aura. The young musician asks her mistress if some martial artists have just passed by them. The courtesan confirms it and says that they look like warriors, but she does not understand why she asks. He then asks her if she has any bad memories of martial artists as the two hooded figures watch them. The two hooded figures are walking along a deserted street, while a man watches them. The old lady of the North Sea Ice Palace, Jujak Reap, asks if that is the young lady's lair. His assistant confirms it and says yes, that's his secret lair. He then reveals that the third guardian, Chiyoung, is acting as the owner of the place. The old woman scoffs at the idea of the third keeper posing as a shopkeeper and considers it shameful. He then asks if the glacial sacred body is also there, but his assistant does not know. The woman explains that, in addition to that place, the young lady has hiding places in a pharmacy and a small sect. The old woman complains that everything is too simple, and tells her assistant to investigate thoroughly. With a determined look, he says that they must secure the glacial sacred body at all costs. The scene changes to a sunny day with birds flying over the roofs of a palace. In his quarters, Chien prepares for the day by tying his hair with a ribbon. Then she puts on her robe with a serious and thoughtful air, getting ready for another day. With a calm expression, he finishes dressing, ready to face the challenges ahead. Suddenly, the maid appears and says that he was right, and that the master was there. The young master then asks if the rumors that he is not a martial artist are true. He wonders how a scholar can have such a fit body and possess martial skills. Mubik then recalls the rumors that he is a secret weapon created by the Murin Alliance. Chien is confused and wonders what they are talking about with those rumors. Then he answers that he was born with a good constitution and that there is no secret. The maid and the young master find the answer even more suspicious and look at him suspiciously. Chien smiles and thinks that, seeing the maid talking to the young master, it seems that she has felt comfortable with him. The maid laughs, while Mubat looks at her with a serious and confused expression. The scholar then says that yesterday he heard a rumor about something interesting that happened. He reveals that he heard that the Namgung clan's divine dragon defeated the Suj clan's hidden dragon. The young master is embarrassed and asks if his master found out too. Chien says goodbye, saying that he has an appointment with the patriarch and that he has to leave. Mo, Buck and the maid stand in silence for a moment, watching the scholar walk away. The young master has a worried and speechless expression at the departure of his master. She then runs after Chien and asks him to wait a moment, as she needs to talk to him. The scholar stops and turns to his student, asking him if he has understood what he said. The young man says that, since it is the first favor his mother asks, he is telling her about it. He then reveals that he personally does not recommend his sister, as she has a terrible temper. Chien smiles and deduces that the lady is considering a marriage between his sister and him. Newback confirms this, and says that if his father asks him about marriage, he should say that he has no intention. The young man is silent for a moment with a serious and thoughtful expression. Then he relaxes and says that it would be weird to have Scholar Chien as his brother-in-law. The tutor is silent for a moment with a calm and enigmatic expression. The young master then says that he just wants me to continue being his writing teacher as before. He looks at the horizon with a sincere and determined expression in his eyes. Chien watches him with a smile and the two are silent for a moment, enjoying the peace. The sun is shining in the blue sky, while Chien and Mu, they're walking back through the clan courtyard. The young master says that his sister is very skilled in martial arts, and beautiful, but also very impulsive. The scholar stops and observes the grand palace before him with a thoughtful expression. Then he feels the heat rising through his body and realizes that he needs to check the energy soon. From Mubak, with a worried expression, he thinks he needs to see how much his student's energy has grown. The scene changes to a room where the patriarch is waiting for him and greets him warmly. Chien bows respectfully and prepares to listen to what the clan leader has to say. The patriarch then says that he has called him to give him an answer about what they discussed earlier. He asks her if knowing the clan's secret techniques is a problem and offers her a solution. With a chest in his hands, he asks what would happen if I gave him a status so he wouldn't be a problem anymore. Chien is surprised and wonders if he is suggesting that she become a member of the family. Then she remembers the conversation about marriage and wonders if that's what the patriarch wants to talk about. The patriarch knocks on the table with his hand and says that from now on, Scholar Chien is no longer a mere scholar. The tutor is speechless at the statement of the clan leader, who looks at him intently. The man of the Namgun clan then hands him a badge of the patriarch's personal guardian, a symbol of absolute trust. Chien is surprised to receive the badge and does not know what to say in the face of such an honor. The patriarch asks him what he thinks of the proposal and anxiously awaits his answer with a confident smile. He says that with this, neither the Council of Elders nor the Senate will be able to have problems with him. The shiny badge is a symbol of the patriarch's personal guardian, a highly prestigious position. The two keep silence in the room while the scholar processes the amazing proposal he has received. With a shocked expression, Chien says that the proposal is too much for him to accept. The patriarch says that he has already seen the clan's secret techniques, which is enough to guarantee his death. With a smile, he says that since the scholar will be a great help to the clan, they can't let him perish. The tutor is silent for a moment, processing the proposal and the veiled threat. The Nam Gong clan leader explains that with the badge he can enjoy all the rights of the clan. Chien thanks him, but says he doesn't know if he deserves such treatment and honor from the patriarch. The man from the Nangong clan says he also needs a justification to present to the Council of Elders. He then reveals that he is going to bring the scholar's mother there and that he will see her soon with the full support of the clan. With a gesture of respect, the tutor bows to the patriarch, thanking him deeply. With her eyes closed, she thanks the clan leader for his generosity and support. The scholar goes out on the terrace and observes the landscape with new hope. She thinks that her mother is on her way, and that she needs to hurry to find the herbs that will cure her. With a smile, he says that it has been a while since he saw her, and that he wants to see her soon. Suddenly, Nubik appears, and says that they have a big problem to solve. He reveals that he has noticed that people call him the Divine Dragon, and that the rumors will spread. The young man wonders if soon everyone will call him the Divine Dragon, and a crowd will cheer for him. With an embarrassed smile, she says she doesn't like pretending to be a nice person. Then he wonders if he should become a scoundrel, or if his destiny is to be the Divine Dragon. With a desperate cry, he asked his teacher to give him his teachings to guide him. Chien looks at him with a completely blank, empty expression. Disinterested in what is happening, Chien tells his student to listen carefully, because the scoundrel is him, and the Divine Dragon is also him. He then explains that an ordinary person would struggle to be just one of the two, but with an excited scream. He says that if he is young Master Nangong, the ultimate scoundrel, it can be both. With an illuminated smile, Nubat understands that he must become a rogue Divine Dragon. He laughs at the idea, while the scholar looks at him with an expression of total disinterest. Suddenly, the young man realizes the contradiction, and asks if a normal scholar wouldn't tell him not to act like a scoundrel. With a mischievous smile, Chien says that there is nothing better than being able to act like a scoundrel when necessary. He explains that there are many things in this world that cannot be solved just by being a hero. Mo. Buck is impressed by the depth of his teacher's words, and looks at him with admiration. Then he wonders if this is the mentality that allowed him to take on the elders of the Murin Alliance. The young man runs to Chien, and asks him to take his pulse before leaving. She catches up with him on the stairs, and begs him to help her with her condition. The young master explains that he is on his way to see Mrs. Chien, and feels that something is wrong with his body. The scholar mocks him, and says that Mrs. Chien has a difficult atmosphere around her. He thinks this comes in handy, as he was curious to know how much the Bukak star's energy had grown. With his student's wrist in his hands, he begins to check his energy with concentration. A bright green aura emanates from the young master as Chien analyzes his condition. The tutor realizes that the energy of the 7 stars has become quite dense in his body. With a determined look, she thinks that she just needs a little more to be able to absorb it. He then reveals that absorbing the energy of the 7 stars doesn't just mean prolonging his life. It reveals that the energy of the 7 stars combines with the celestial martial body and manifests as new abilities. With a mischievous smile, he thinks that if Mubak's energy reaches him, it will become a new skill. The young master then asks where he is sick, and if he should slow down his heartbeat. The scene changes to a dark night, with a full moon shining over the mountains, and a secluded cabin. Suddenly, the door of the hut is slammed open, and a group of hooded figures invades the place. The white-haired woman screams. He shouts for the guards, and asks who did this to his men. One of his followers asks if the glacial sacred body is safe after the attack. With an angry expression, the woman leads her group to the cave to check the situation. He is surprised to see the ice crystal completely shattered and empty. With her eyes wide open, she screams that the glacial sacred body has disappeared and wonders how it could have happened. The woman can't believe her eyes and wonders how the glass could have broken. She then turns to her follower and asks if she has ever heard of the glacial sacred body awakening on its own. The third guardian replies that nowhere in the palace records is there any mention of such a thing. With an angry expression, the woman orders her men to search the surroundings thoroughly. Suddenly, he turns around and realizes that there is someone watching the scene from a distance. Her follower draws her sword and screams, asking who is there, ready for combat. A mysterious figure with a torch in his hand appears at the top of the cave, illuminating the place. Then he says, "So this is where the young lady hid the glacial sacred body." The white-haired woman is surprised to recognize old lady Yu and asks her what she is doing there. Then he accuses her of having come to take his life, just as he did with the master of the palace. Old lady Yu says that it was an inevitable choice, and that the young lady knows it very well. He explains that the ice palace has always been managed by the master and the elders together, but the palace master made the mistake of trying to eliminate the elders' faction, and they simply responded. The white-haired woman accuses her of having brought the blood cult, and asks if the palace has improved because of it. The two groups face off in the cave, with the tension increasing by the second. The old woman then demands that he hand over the glacial sacred body to her without hesitation. She says that the glacial sacred body belongs to the ice palace, and not to her individually. The young lady looks at her angrily and asks if she plans to offer it to the blood cult as well. The old woman and her followers prepare for battle, ready to take what they want by force. Then he says that the blood cult will serve as a springboard to enter the Jinjo. The old woman reminds him that he does not have much time left to live, and asks if he has found someone to extend it for him. Then he wonders how long they must live burdened by such a cruel fate. The white-haired woman and her follower look at the old woman with a serious expression. The old woman declares that they must go to the Sanjuan and overcome their fate, turning the palace into a pillar of the Murin. But the young lady screams no, and that the palace only has value when it stays in the North Sea. With a furious look, he refuses to follow the old lady's plans for the future of the palace. The old woman accuses her of having an even more archaic way of thinking than the previous palace master. Then he says that for the sake of his disciples, even if they have to take his life, they will enter the Murin. With a furious scream, he demands that the young lady hand over the glacial sacred body to him immediately. The old woman unleashes an explosion of blue energy, preparing for a devastating attack. The wave of blue energy spreads through the cave with overwhelming power. The white-haired woman and her followers are hit by the explosion of energy. Their reflections are seen in the fragments of ice that fly through the air after the attack. The old woman is surprised and wonders what those ice crystal fragments are. The young lady accuses her of having melted the glacial sacred body with her attack. He stares at her with an expression of pure rage and disbelief at the situation. The white-haired woman then reveals that the glacial sacred body woke up on its own and disappeared. The old woman is surprised and says that this is absurd and cannot be true. He runs to the broken glass and can't believe that the glacial sacred body was able to wake up on its own. The old woman examines the crystal and wonders how he was able to wake up on his own. Then he looks at the remains of the glass and wonders if it really melted from the inside out. The young lady says they were just trying to understand the situation when the old lady arrived. The old woman gets angry and asks why the hell she brought the glacial sacred body to this place. The white-haired woman accuses her of being the culprit and asks if she has thought about the disaster that would result if she fell into the hands of the cult. The old woman screams that she would not give the glacial sacred body to the cult, and that it is a misunderstanding. Then he says that now they have to find the glacial sacred body as fast as possible. The old woman orders her men to search for the glacial sacred body around the mountain fortress. His followers answer yes and get ready to start the search immediately. The young lady then tells her follower that they also need to mobilize all the available staff. With a look, he says that they can't be slower than the old lady, and that they have to find him first. In a restaurant, a steaming bowl of noodles is waiting to be eaten. Chien is sitting alone at a table, calmly enjoying his meal. He comments that the broth has become more refreshing, and the salty taste has improved, making the food delicious. The owner of the restaurant appears, and thanks the scholar, saying that the number of customers has doubled. The tutor smiles, and says he is flattered, but wonders where his noodles are. Suddenly, she realizes that her bowl is empty, and wonders where her food has gone. Then he looks around, and sees a small mysterious figure hidden behind a column. The figure turns out to be a white-haired young woman, eating voraciously from her bowl of noodles. Chien clears his throat with his arms crossed, and wonders who this cheeky girl could be. Mubik appears and wonders where the girl went after stealing her teacher's food. The girl gobbles up our hero's noodles with an impressive appetite. Chien wonders what kind of hungry girl she is. Then he catches the girl's attention, and she takes a breath with her mouth full of food. Despite that, she seems to be really enjoying the food, and smiles completely satisfied. Seeing how hungry she is, our guy decides to order 2 more bowls of noodles. Soon, a steaming, freshly made bowl is placed in front of him. However, he barely takes a bite, when the girl is already showing him her empty bowl, asking for more. To prove that everything is over, he turns the bowl over on his own head. Faced with such a strange scene, our protagonist is completely speechless. With a dirty mouth, he asks the name of his benefactor. He introduces himself as Chien, and the girl says the name suits him. Then he comments that the food seems to have astragalus and goji fences. Our hero is surprised to see that he has guessed the secret ingredients of the dish correctly. Chien asked her name, but the girl doesn't remember anything. Our protagonist stares at her for a moment, trying to understand the situation with a kind smile. He tells her that he understands and pats her on the head, but the girl's expression suddenly twists into one of pure fury. He shouts that one should never touch a woman's head without permission. Then he adds that that's what someone told him, adopting a strange pose. Our guy then reflects that she is definitely not an ordinary girl. The girl then says that she does not remember anything about herself, but that she knows about other things. Then he points to his head with a very serious look. Upset, she stomps on the floor, and screams that she really doesn't know anything. Right after, she smiles, thanks him for the meal, and says she has to leave. Our hero is confused, wondering if he's just going to leave like that. So Chien asks her if she has a place to stay, and the girl looks at him surprised, with a strange smile. She says a man invited her to go with him. She thanks him again and leaves as our protagonist watches her leave. The owner of the place approaches, worried, and asks if it's a good idea to let her go. He says there are rumors of kidnappers selling children in the region. Outside, a suspicious man approaches the girl who was walking alone. The man then grabs her by the wrist tightly, but the girl refuses to go. He even complains that he stinks and angrily tries to let go. With a disgusting smile, the man threatens to harm her if she continues to resist. Our hero then appears and asks why they won't let her go. The kidnapper gets angry and tells the scholar to mind his own business. Chien replies that the world has really gone haywire when people kidnap children in broad daylight. The man denies everything and says he was just trying to help a poor orphan girl on the street. There are now 2 men surrounding the girl as Chien watches the scene. Our hero then says that the orphan is actually his little sister. The kidnapper doubts him and calls him a shameless liar, but the girl plays along and calls our hero big brother. The men then get angry and decide to beat him up for sticking his nose where he is not called. One of the thugs swoops down to try to hit our protagonist. However, Chien dodges his punch with impressive ease. Right after, he knocks down the man who falls face first to the ground. Seeing this, the leader of the thugs tells all his men to attack at once. Suddenly, A man appears and asks what all the fuss is about. He seems to know the thugs and scolds them for being at the northern border. The man then recognizes our hero and asks him what he is doing there. Chin explains that the guys tried to kidnap his sister and a fight broke out. The newcomer is shocked to hear what the thugs did. Furious, he says he has punished them before, and now they are kidnapping people. The leader of the thugs does not like to be called attention to and orders his henchmen to attack. The man then prepares to show them the true fury of the north. Without any problem, he just takes out all the kidnappers. After the commotion, our hero and the girl are safely in the yard. Our protagonist thinks that the girl has become a big dilemma for him. She realizes that even with simple clothes, her beauty cannot be hidden. Then she realizes that it is too dangerous to leave her alone. Our hero stops and looks at the girl. He bends down a little to be at eye level. Chen then asks him if he wants to stay with him until he regains his memory. With a smile, she accepts because he doesn't suck like the other guy. Our protagonist finds his sincerity important and returns the smile. So he says that, as of now, the deal between them is sealed. For all intents and purposes, he will be her older cousin, and she will be his younger cousin, named Chin Jian Seal. The girl really likes the name she chose for herself. As they walk, Jian Seal asks if she can hold his hand. Our hero agrees with a kind smile on his face. As soon as he takes her hand, he notices something very strange. Jansel's hand is freezing, and he realizes that he needs some kind of medicine. Our guy then tells her that she is like a sister to him, but he makes the mistake of touching her head again. Enraged, she prepares to attack, but he quickly apologizes. Meanwhile, the couple is being watched by a mysterious figure. The woman in the ice palace doesn't understand their relationship. He wonders if the glacial sacred body has no survival instinct. His maid thinks he only has the memories of a little girl, and followed him out of kindness. The maid suggests that they kidnap the girl at the right time, but the master of the ice palace refuses. As the blood cult is also looking for her, he explains that they are in for looking for the sacred glacial body. For now, the Namdan clan is the safest place for the girl. Meanwhile, our hero and Gensio seem to get along very well. Her maid then asks if they shouldn't just take the glacial sacred body away. The teacher says that she has thought about it a lot, but that there is no safer place in Ife. Therefore, the fact that he is with the Namdan clan is an advantage for them. Then observe the imposing clan fortress from a distance. Also, remember that old lady Yu and the cults are also in the house. The entire city of Ife has become a veritable whirlwind of events. His biggest concern is the old lady Yu, who can feel the girl's energy. The maid fears that it will only be a matter of time before the old lady finds her. The teacher then reveals that they need to use a special object to avoid it. Her follower recognizes the purified ice crystal on the table. With the crystal's energy, they can trick old lady Yu and buy some time. But the maid is worried that her teacher will not be able to absorb the sun's energy. The master of the ice palace knows that using the crystal will shorten her life. The maid gets desperate and asks her what she is talking about. Then he says that his duty is to protect his teacher at all costs. The master of the ice palace tells her maid to stop worrying. He fears that the cults will invade the clan and steal the girl that very night. This possibility leaves her follower completely shocked and speechless. The maid apologizes and says she will prepare a fake body to trick them. As the young woman leaves, the teacher thanks her for her loyalty and care. The scene takes us to Qian's new residence in the Nangan clan. Yan Seal is amazed by the size of the house and excitedly runs everywhere. She even rolls around on the floor, madly happy with her new home. Chen's servants watch the girl without understanding what is going on. The maid Benbai comes over and asks our hero who the girl is. He introduces her as his cousin, who had an accident and lost her memory. Our guy asks them to treat her well to one who seems a little weird. Meanwhile, Yensa lies on the floor and says how nice the place is. Then Bei comments that the young woman is beautiful and will capture many hearts in the future. Jin asks him to help Yensel take a bath and buy some clothes. The servants remind him that he does not have to pay for anything. Being part of the clan, Bimbai gets excited because the old man ordered them to fulfill all his wishes. Our protagonist then tells him to keep the money for whatever he needs. Later, our hero and Jansel are together in the courtyard to relax. The girl looks very happy and excited with her clothes, new and his new life. With a smile, Chanseo says that he really likes being there, and that the place smells good. Our hero is happy to see her so cheerful after all. He then asks the girl for her hand, in order to take her pulse. As he injects his spiritual energy, he notices that her hand is very cold. Suddenly, the energy flows in a completely wild and uncontrolled way. Our protagonist then wonders if it is possible that she does not have meridians. The energy simply fades away inside the girl's body without a trace. Chen withdraws his hand, realizing that it's not that at all. He understands that his meridians are so wide that he cannot feel them, because if they are so massive, even his energy cannot detect them. The girl then shines with a powerful aura and smiles innocently. He finally realizes that she possesses the legendary celestial immortal meridian. This is a constitution that appears only once every 1,000 years, something that can only be achieved by those who ascend to the status of immortal. Our hero then concludes that this is something that should only exist in theory. The only explanation is that it was artificially created by someone. Then he wonders if an evil organization could have done this, because if so, it could become a disaster for the martial world. The girl feels the tension and asks, "Brother, what happened?" Chillin pretends to be calm, and says that he is going to prepare a medicine for his cold body. Our hero asks the girl not to move away, since she has to talk to the old man. She thinks that if she really is the celestial immortal meridian, the girl is incredibly special, because with this constitution, she becomes stronger just by breathing. This means that your inner strength will build up naturally, which is simply absurd. Soon, our protagonist heads to the hall of the Namgan clan elders. When he gets there, he finds two men who greet him respectfully. The old man invites him in and says he planned to meet with him alone. However, as a mutual acquaintance arrived, he called them both at once. The man turns around and greets our hero in a very condescending way. Chen recognizes him as Kajina, a rival who annoyed him in the past. Our protagonist then asks what that guy is doing there. Kajina, with an air of superiority, reveals his new position as vice supervisor. Chen realizes that the rumor about him being the grandson of Alliance Elder Miran is true. The guy thinks he's superior and wants to talk informally to our hero. But our protagonist interrupts him by saying that they're not in the Miram Alliance right now, and that it's rude to treat someone on an assignment temporary with disdain. Kojin gets angry and yells about respecting the chain of command. However, the old man intervenes and scolds him for yelling at his honored guest. The man is surprised by the reprimand and immediately apologizes. He takes a bow and admits that he acted recklessly in front of the old man. The old man then turns to Kohin, who is still bowing to him. In a serious tone, he tells the young man to stop looking for a fight and get to the point. Kojin then informs that the blood and demonic cults are very active. He adds with a sly look that they seem to be looking for something. To the old man's surprise, Kujin reveals that his destination is the city of Afei. Hearing this, our hero tenses up because he knows exactly what they are looking for.